All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday night. It's a busy time here in the sports world, the wrestling world, and we were kind of waiting to see how the landscape would shake and a couple of different things. And to cover some of that here for a little while is our guy here. You hear on sportnarium.com/player. He is the host of the Hockey Fan Chat, also covers all things related here to the world of professional wrestling for us. He is our Universal Champion, head of the table when it comes to pro wrestling coverage and more. That is Mr. Randy Dillon. And Randy, happy Friday, and how are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right, Tom. How are you? I know you must be happy with the results for hockey today.
Yeah, definitely happy the Islanders kind of salvaged their season there. Certainly looked a little dicey, but they finally score on the power play and definitely take care of business here. And we'll have a series, hopefully get another one on Sunday, but we'll definitely get to that in a little while. But obviously, we wanted to get your reactions on a couple of things here first. I know we were speaking about this off the air and throughout the last day or so here as we were getting ready for the show. And that's this news here about AEW and maybe a potential brand split. It looks like finally, just finally, we may see CM Punk after all this talk, all this time here on Sportswire. He's waiting in the wings. And what do you say to all this chatter about the CM Punk and more in the world of AEW, Randy Dillon?
Well, there's a lot to digest here at Punk. So, as we talk with Punk, Tom, as we talked a few weeks ago, he needs to return because he's a draw. He's a draw for ratings. He'll draw
Absolutely.
tickets for shows. He'll draw tickets for Wembley and for All Out. But the problem is there's still a drift in the locker room. There's no reconciliation between him or the Bucks and Omega. Jericho, him and Tony Khan, they haven't met yet. There is possibly going to be a brand split in AEW upcoming, but the problem with this brand split is not your usual brand split we get Raw and SmackDown. This is a brand split particularly just so guys can go to the show to work, particularly with Punk, so they can keep guys separate. For me, I think this is a horrible, horrible idea. I understand what Punk's bring, what he's done from the business, but I side here with the Elite and the Young Bucks because two things. One, I go back to 2018 Madison Square Garden, where the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes, Omega, Jericho, they sold out, and really that was the start of AEW.
That was where the shots were fired. I agree. The shots were fired at that moment. That's where we said, you know what, there is a new player in town, and we might be onto something here. I agree completely.
But where was Punk? He wasn't there. Now,
no, he was trying to be an MMA UFC fighter, and we saw how that went.
Exactly. So he wasn't there. So the question now becomes where we saw the press conference. He took heavy shots at the Elite, the brawl, the fact that there hasn't been any recognition on either side. It reports saying the Young Bucks, they want nothing to do with Punk. Same with Omega. Punk has been told not to reach out to the side. There's supposed to be meetings between AEW and between Jericho, Tony Khan, and Punk to see what it is, because we know Jericho's kind of like the Undertaker in AEW. He's like the right-hand man where Taker was to Vince for so many years. That's what Jericho is to AEW. So his voice definitely going to get opinion. I think long-term, this is really going to affect the wrestlers. And I'm talking with someone that lure on the card who really want to shop because they're saying, go to this new show, work with Punk, but I don't feel comfortable working with the guy. You say no, you're going to get kind of thrown down the gauntlet, maybe be forgotten. So this is, I think, going to cause a drift in the AEW locker room. I think it's going to cause drift with talent because there's a lot of talent out there who don't want to work with Punk in that locker room. And they're really just doing it just for him to please him. And honestly, I don't CM Punk was a great wrestler, but I don't think he's great enough to the level where he can have his own show around him. But the money's there; it speaks for itself. But I don't know if this is the right move long term for AEW. Short term, maybe, but long term, we're going to see problems.
All right, couple things here first. Now, I get all of these points here as somebody that obviously covers a hell of a lot of professional wrestling with a hell of a lot of different wrestlers and promoters. And we had a promoter tonight on Sportswire when I was on the air the first time that basically, how can I put this without tipping my hand, went off the deep end when it came to another promotion. We actually had our own little war here on Sportswire tonight. But, I mean, you said it yourself, and we've said it here. CM Punk is truly maybe the only household draw that AEW has when it comes to appealing to that casual fan or that fan that we might be speaking about to sell out all out coming up here in August, right? We get all of the history of this company. He's their biggest box office draw. I mean, don't they still need him though?
I think they need him right now more in the short term. I think it could work more in the short term thing what we saw with Brock Lesnar when he walked out with Vince. They said, okay, we just need, when Vince left, saying, okay, we just need you guys to work this long for this long period, then we go our separate ways. The problem with Punk is he still has deal in a contract, and from what I've read, this is a very lucrative deals where he's getting a lot of money, a lot of endorsement, including heavy merchandise sales. So if you're not using the guy, you're pretty much just wasting money.
Agreed. The money they paid to bring him in here was certainly an arm and a leg, no question. I mean,
but I think for the long term, because the Young Bucks, Omega, they're not only wrestlers, they're VPs. So if Tony Khan, this is really going to be decision making time for Tony Khan. If somehow they all can't come to, if everyone can't really come to a neutral agreement here, saying, okay, we'll work bygone be bygone. He's going to have to pick a side. And
okay, but one point though, you did make a fair point that it's short term, right? So when you say short term about CM Punk, I mean, isn't this really what it's about? Is Warner Brothers, the network, about the potential streaming rights, pay-per-view streams? I mean, is this really what this is about? Because that is ultimately what it all comes down to. No.
I don't think this is the short term because the show on Saturday is supposed to be a 2-hour show, from what I've heard. And
Yep.
this is supposed to be a long thing. So if this was a 1-hour show like Rampage, maybe I could understand. But this is a 2-hour long show you want. You want to get your talent product out. You want to get your talent out. But the problem is they're going to be talent really resisting working here because, listen, a lot of them we know talent AEW, they're close to the Young Bucks, Hangman Adam Page. They've seen the work of Jericho. There's a lot of the talent, I would have to say, this is a very close talent group because they've been around each other so long for the independents. Punk kind of left the independent where all these guys were kind
A
of
long time ago. There's very little crossover with this bunch compared to Punk. Where he was an indie darling, now we're talking like 15 years ago. That's a long time ago.
Exactly. So I think that is definitely the thing there where he's left. And again, I said last week, this is not the first time he's called his shot. The damage it did to AEW huge. And then the thing I also wonder with Punk's return is, are we going to see MJF versus Punk in Wimbledon? Because the rumor was they were going to have the four-man pillar tournament, four-man match for the pillars, MJF, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, and Jungle Boy. And now they've kind of changed it. I think they're still going to have that match, but I think it's leading up to CM Punk with MJF and Wellington. Because I think, again, who's really going to work with Punk? Is Jericho's going to say, I'm okay with the guy being here, but I don't want to work with you?
Well, Jericho, I think right now has got his hands full with Adam Cole. I don't know if we're going to go down that road. I don't know if Jericho wants to work with Punk. I think Jericho's looking at Adam Cole. I mean, certainly Punk and Jericho have history, a documented history, and so I kind of think that's where we're going with this. I mean, so you do think though that we are getting Punk in an AEW ring, whether it's tomorrow night, if it's that soon, or very soon. Is that what you're saying here?
Most likely, from what I've heard, he's coming back in June, which makes sense. It after Double or Nothing, it starts to build up.
Right.
All out. It start when that Saturday show happened. That will help get the 10th in Wimbledon. And I do think if you can't do Omega, the Elite versus Punk in FTR, if you can't do Jericho versus Punk, the only logical option for Punk and for a big draw way is putting him against MJF. But again, it goes to that point where this guy who caused all this issue now gets a front row ticket to the main event, where I know a lot of the guys in the back can't be happy. And then for sure, again, I understand the short-term ramification, but long-term, it could get nasty.
Well, we've seen this before in locker rooms. I mean, we saw obviously the dynamic years ago with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. I think about when Goldberg came back to the WWE in 2003, and we saw Chris Jericho and him, that well-documented fight. I mean, we do see these such incident situations where wrestlers don't like each other. I mean, we have seen, look at Punk and John Cena, or Punk and Triple H. I mean, there certainly is that dynamic. It is the wrestling business. So, I mean, I guess we'll have to see what happens here, but very quickly here, a couple of thoughts here as we're getting ready for Backlash here, and obviously we have a number of different matches that were announced: Zelina Vega and Rhea Ripley, Seth Rollins, and Omos. We have obviously this
Oh,
U.S. title
God.
triple threat, and I mean, I'm trying to do the positive spin, which has kind of been my job here. But is there anything in Backlash that excites you? And obviously, next week on SmackDown, we have a rematch for the tag team titles. I mean, do I even have to ask you as a kind of a extra point? Do the Usos actually regain their tag team titles? Because something tells me here they might. What do you say?
So in Backlash in general, I have hope for the show other than Omos and Seth Rollins. I think Cody versus Brock is going to be a very, very good match because remember,
Is that going to be the main event, you think?
I think it should be the main event, but I'm not too sure.
I'll do
Zelina
maybe
Vega,
Bloodline and Usos, yeah.
maybe, yeah. Zelina Vega is a great worker. She gets an opportunity. And remember, she's Puerto Rican. Bobby Lashley, Bronson Reed, Austin Theory, that's going to be good work.
That's an intriguing storyline, by the way. One of those under the radar kind of really intriguing situations.
Yeah, no. And then you got, we know we're going to get Mysterio and Bad Bunny versus Priest and Dom. That's going to be.
And Bad Bunny's on Raw coming up on Monday here.
So I think the card itself looks good. I just think Omos and Rollins, holy shite. If Vince is not calling the shot, I don't know what's that.
So why do they keep going to Omos? We've seen this last year. They went with him and Lashley for a while. It didn't work. We saw what happened with him and Lesnar. I mean, does he know something? Or does he have something on somebody in WWE?
Either he has something or they're really trying to make it work with him, saying, listen, we're trying to get you in with the best of the best. I think with Brock, you were in that big main event star. The lights were on, the cameras are on, and you really didn't see that. I think for Seth, you're going to really go with a really good worker here who can really make you look good. So I think if Triple H is booking this and maybe he's trying to show Vince, hey, you want me to book Omos? I will, but look at the results here. I think this is really saying I'm giving Omos the car. I'm giving Omos the keys. I'm giving him great opportunity here. But listen, the guy come flat. I can't do much more with him. That's
I don't know
I'm
here.
thinking here.
Yeah, I just don't know here as we are here with Randy Dillon of the Hockey Fan Chat. Please follow Randy on Twitter and Instagram at Randy Dillon. That's DHILON. Of course, enjoyed the show here for the NHL playoff preview that him and Chris Pizzea shared for us here on sportnarium.com/player, our Sportswire radio internet dial platform here. But I mean, all right, Bad Bunny here. I mean, I kind of do think in a way, though, he is going to draw some eyeballs here. And speaking of that casual audience, especially in Puerto Rico, and Bad Bunny is one of the biggest artists in the world. So, I mean, if you are WWE, before I ask you a question on the draft, I mean, you got to be feeling really good right now, though.
Oh, absolutely. I think when they announced a few months ago Bad Bunny was there, the card could be whatever. You could make this card one of the worst cards possible. Have a glorified house show for all I care. Because Bad Bunny is what's selling those tickets in Puerto Rico. We know professional wrestling big, but you need some. But I think you still need to get something attention. Bad Bunny sold that attention to the Puerto Rican audience, to the Mexican audience. You know, Rey Mysterio, Dom, Damian, Priest, Zelina Vega, they all definitely help. But Bad Bunny is kind of that mega level star. He's like Logan Paul in the way there. He's going to get...
I might even say he's bigger than Logan Paul because here's a guy that's had #1 records, sold millions of records, when in the music business, nobody goes platinum, multi-platinum anymore, and Grammys. I mean, he's a real attraction.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the card itself is going to be feed a little whack because it's really all about him. And we've seen his talent in the ring a few years ago, tag teaming with the likes of Damian Priest against Miz and Morrison, who put on a phenomenal match. So I definitely think for Bad Bunny himself, this is like, it's all about him. This is his time to shine. WWE knows that. They know what he's doing. He's bringing in the ticket sale. He's bringing in the merchandise. He's bringing in people to come see this place for helping to
Well, when
set
we
up.
had him on the first time, I believe WWE broke a record in YouTube views and streams for their content. So I mean, they've already got that track record. And they're going for different things. I mean, Logan Paul is obviously this YouTube sensation, and Bad Bunny makes him look like he's a walk in the park. And I mean, so you got to be feeling really good right now about WWE. And I mean, what do you think though happens here next week with the draft? Obviously, will be another week or so away until Backlash. But give me your impressions on the draft. What are you looking for here when it comes to this draft next week?
For me, the draft, the one thing I would love to see, they finally bring in a new world title to crown a new world champion, or say they're going to do something to crown a new world champion. Because I think, listen, we know Roman's not going to be there. He's going to be coming and going. We know most likely he's keeping the title possibly till next year. I think you need to get a second world title in, regardless whether it's Raw or SmackDown. Do I see a flip of the Intercontinental and the US title? Yeah, I could see Walt Gunther and Imperium going to Raw, and Austin
Theory going to SmackDown.
I could see that. I could see Damian, Rhea, and Dom staying on SmackDown, and Finn might go his own way on Raw. The possibility of the Street Profit breaking, but I don't see that happening. I could see I definitely see Chad Gable and Otis splitting. I don't see the Raw Women's title switching spot. Seth Rollins is a very interesting name. If he switched them with Becky, but I think they're going to keep them on Raw.
Well, Becky, I think, is going to be occupied with Trish for a while, so that would indicate that's going to be Raw.
Yeah. And then I think the big thing is going to be, where's Logan Paul going to end up? I think that's going to be the ultimate big question.
I mean, he's got history with Roman Reigns, so that would make sense. We kind of saw what happened with him and Seth Rollins. So I would say, I guess, if Seth is going to SmackDown, does Logan follow, or do you keep Logan on Raw?
I think Logan more on Raw, because I think SmackDown, how it's built right now, the ratings are there. Definitely having Logan here or there definitely helpful. With a 3-hour show, you need more. And I think Logan Paul definitely bring that more for the audience and the attention.
What about somebody like a Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville, who've kind of had this interesting tag team dynamic? Are they SmackDown candidates maybe? Because they seem like they might be natural fits there.
Yeah, I think SmackDown talent. I just think Chelsea Green had to go where Adam Pearce is going. That's the thing. That's where she's going right now.
You know, I didn't have any expectations of this character and this thing, but it's kind of taken a life of its own here, and it's kind of been interesting. I mean, obviously they came up short tonight for the tag team titles, but Chelsea Green's actually kind of had maybe her best run in WWE. She's been here a couple different times and never really amounted to much, but here it looks like she's kind of had some something to do here.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is her best work since her Impact days, where her Hot Mess work. I can't remember her character name then, but it was some really great work. Her run in NXT was, and we know the main roster run was just flat. And then I think the big question for Chelsea Green is, if she goes, does that mean will we see Matt Cardona show up on either brand? Because there's been a rumor WWE had a big talent debuting, but they wanted to save him till the draft. I think Cardona's name up there. Bronson.
I don't know. That's a good one, but I mean, he's been just killing it in the independents. He's got like so many world titles at this point. Like I don't know. I mean, everybody said Jay White was going to be that guy. Everybody said Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis now is in Impact Wrestling, going after Steve Macklin, and Jay White we spoke about last week. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess it would make sense. I mean, part of me actually thinks if WWE really wants to do some shocking, it's John Morrison, actually, because now he's a boxing star and he's got that all of a sudden kind of a casual following again. I mean, that would be the guy to me that would make sense. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he's now turning into a boxer or not.
John Morrison's interesting because with the sale of WWE, the big thing going on are there going to be budget cuts, and I've been trying to figure out who's going to get cut and who's not going to get cut. They're a hiring freeze right now. They're not really going after talent. I think that would ultimately lead Jay White really that WWE couldn't really get a number or really commit to a contract right away, and he wanted to get signed. So maybe that's why he ultimately decided to sign with AEW. But yeah, John Morrison said he's open to a WWE return, but he wants the same thing with Cody was. He's not going to come to you. He wants you to come to him. So.
Yeah, Morrison is got to be what, in his early to mid 40s now at this point. I mean, yeah, I don't know if WWE's coming to him at that level. I don't know if he's at that level with Cody. You know, the boxing thing certainly makes him interesting to me, but I don't know, especially now with his wife in AEW. I think. I mean, I don't know if that necessarily would be interesting split. Casey Jack Bradley's here with us. Says, "Hey, gents, I think WWE is kind of going downhill since Vince is back and most superstars are sick or injured." I mean, let me ask you one follow up when it comes to this. Let's say cuts here that WWE is eventually going to make. Does that impact, once again, I hate to do this because I've actually kind of gotten into their product, but does this impact, you think, NXT more than anybody else?
Yeah, I think NXT it definitely impact because I following NXT. They have a lot of talent there, and a lot of the talent there is, I think, kind of like they have some great talent: Roxanne Perez, Tiffany Stratton, Carmelo Hayes, Braun Breaker, Grayson Waller. There are some great talent in NXT, but some of the other talent,
Cora Jade. I mean, yeah, you definitely have a list of people there that, you know,
but you have
all
some
right.
other talent there that kind of like that that society with Joey Grave,
Toxic, the 2/3 of Toxic Attraction are still there. I mean,
yeah,
obviously they split
but
up.
those are, I could see us one going one. That's one person I definitely see getting caught in the NXT. That university group, like they're kind of funny, but I don't really buy into them. And then on the main roster, honestly, one talent I actually see maybe that kind of gonna get let go, and we might see some members of Hit Row get let go again because I think last time it was more they didn't get an opportunity. This time, listen, they were given the opportunity, they just couldn't go with it. So it's like what you it's hard to say. If I had to guess someone going.
Cedric Alexander, maybe Shelton Benjamin. Are those the types, kind of the lower tier on the roster? Those guys that might be filler talent. Maybe those would be names to think of. I mean, although I think Shelton Benjamin's probably doing, I would imagine, something outside the ring that's probably helping the younger talent as an elder statesman role. But I mean, would be those types would be looking at as maybe potential cuts?
Yeah, possibly Cedric Alexander's not doing a hurt business. I think Mustafa Ali, listen, we've heard the
Yeah,
cross.
he's been, I never know what they're doing. Sometimes I read that they're gonna make this guy a superstar, then other times I can't figure it out. I don't know what to make of where they're going with this guy. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got the ring ability. This guy can go in the ring. I mean, I've watched him and he reminds me of so many people I've interviewed on Sportswire with his ring ability, but they just never seem. He kind of seems to be stuck in the mud almost.
Yeah, so I think definitely he's been trying to make his name thing. I want to be released. I want I should be used better and stuff. Like I don't see Dolph like, and honestly, like people like you look at a guy that could release Dolph Ziggler and Shelton Benjamin, but those guys I think they're veterans. They do.
Yeah, I
some
don't
good
think
work.
Dolph Ziggler's getting released. I
They help
think Dolph. Yeah, God.
they help some of the younger talent, as you mentioned. I don't expect those two guys because you need people like this. I don't expect Braun Strowman to get released again. I think Triple H. I don't expect Karrion Kross. I think Karrion Kross is a name that people may consider, but I don't think he's on the name to get released because I think there's something. It worked in NXT very well.
Yeah, I don't get it with him. In NXT, he was unstoppable, and they've just never quite like him and Baron Corbin. It's like they just never can quite put it together with these guys. I mean, Cross, I think, has had a little more success of late than Corbin, but
I think Baron Corbin definitely one guy who might just get released because I think, but we know he's one of Vince's favorites, so I can't say that much.
Well, the obvious one that may just go on his own is Drew McIntyre. We spoke about that a couple of times on Sportswire, and we'll get the Sportswire team here in 5 minutes. I know Randy certainly is a trooper here tonight. We appreciate him even giving us a few minutes. But Casey Jack Bradley says WWE are not pushing the talent. I think it's Vince choosing his favorites or stars who are being repeatedly pushed too much, or some getting turned into enhancement talent. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it seems like the product is certainly going into kind of, I guess, a crossroads, you might want to say here. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Dolph Ziggler, though, I just want to say on him, he had a great match on main event. Everybody was talking about on Twitter. I don't think Dolph Ziggler is getting cut. I think he means a lot to WWE, and I think he's a guy we're going to look at one day and say, wow, he was in the WWE that long, and he's going to wind up being a Hall of Famer. And Shelton Benjamin will probably do the same here. But before I get to closing thoughts here with you, I wanted to ask you, I mean, NHL playoffs here. I mean, what do you make of it so far here? I mean, such a fascinating playoffs here so far. We've got some series here that could go the distance, and one to me I got to mention very quick. I know the Islanders got to win, but I'll let the other guys talk about that later. Is the New Jersey Devils and the New York Rangers, and I mean, what's going on here? Devils sweep the Rangers in the regular season, and then in New Jersey, it's been a total opposite. Randy, I mean, what do you make of these playoffs here, real quick?
Oh, try to hit everyone possible. So starting off with Devils and Rangers. With the Devils, they're playing too cute. We know playoff hockey is about tight defensive hockey, where the Rangers have struggled a lot. But listen, they bat down the house, and I think the Devils right now think they're just being too. They're giving Rangers too much. They're making it too easy for them. They need to be harder in the offensive zone. They got to pressure more. They can't give the puck easy. They can't take that many penalties. You got to fight for the territory. If not, you're going to get swept. Where we just saw the Islanders and the Hurricanes. Man, this is such a great series, but the Islanders may have their opportunity now with no Timo Teravainen. We know Shepnikov and Pacioretty not coming back. The offense got 5. Let's see if that can keep it up. Boston
and they scored on the power play finally.
Yep. After giving up a shorthanded goal. Easy come, easy go. Boston and Florida. Florida laid a hole tonight. They had an opportunity with no Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci. They lost big. Last time I checked was 4-0. They could have lost 5, and I think that shows how good the Bruins are. But Florida had a chance to jump. They failed. And then the last series, Toronto and Tampa. We've seen 2 heavy scoring games. For Tampa, you have to hope Victor Hedman plays. If not, Toronto might finish this series up quickly.
I gotta think, though, for whatever reason, because it's Toronto, they got this streak, it's going the distance. I just think for whatever reason, Tampa's going to get one of these next 2. I definitely think Toronto's going to get at least 1 at home. I gotta think these teams seem to be destined to go the distance. That's what I think. And you got the Kraken and the Avalanche. Kraken win game 1, and they kind of hold their own and give them a game in game 2. You got the Wild and Stars. Is going to be a series that might go the distance here. Wild, a lot of people were kind of down on.
That's where you want to. If you want to see fighting, that's where you want to go watch hockey. If you want to see 2 teams that hate each other, physical, that's where you go watch.
Well, how about they have the Panthers and Bruins? I had actually somebody stop me in the street yesterday, and he goes, Tom, I was wondering. He said, you doing the podcast, the radio still do this? I'm like, yeah. He's like, did you see what happened with the Panthers and Bruins at the end of the game, the last 2 minutes? I said, yeah. He's like, you got to talk about that on Sportswire. I'm like, I'm going to talk about that and mention. So, yeah, a lot of physicality. And then the Jets and Golden Knights here, another interesting series. I mean, there's some good series here. I mean, let's hope that we get some series go the distance, because I think there might be a couple this year.
Oh, yeah. When me and Chris Pazea did our preview, I think we had majority of these series going to 6 to 7 games, other than Dallas and Minnesota, but even Florida and Boston. But I think we were wrong there. I think all these series have potential going the distance, unless the Devils can't find a way to clean up.
Yeah, see, the Devils, I mean, I know we got Justin Gianelli, Neil Villapiano, who are huge, Devils fans and boosters, and I don't know about that series. I mean, part of me says, I hope the Devils make it a series. One of our good listeners here, Daniel Slavin, huge New Jersey Devils fan. I mean, he was basically conceived in a New Jersey Devils game. I mean, that's actually true, by the way. I hope he's not listening when I say this, but it's actually pretty true. But yeah, some of these series, I mean, Oilers Kings, I think we knew was going to be good. I think that 1-1, we knew that was going to happen. Obviously, they're playing as we speak. Stars and Wild, we mentioned. Bruins and Panthers, 4-2 Bruins, actually. Panthers got a couple of cheap goals late. Maple Leafs, Lightning tomorrow. Devils, Rangers, Avalanche, Kraken, Hurricanes, Isles come back. So there are some good series here. We'll certainly see what winds up happening here. And last thing before I get to close, because I know you're obviously a little under the weather, and I hope you feel better. If Johnny Gargano gets cut, I'll be bad. I don't know.
I was reading something where Vince is actually a big fan of Johnny Gargano.
Really? He likes him?
Yeah, but I think especially now where you don't have Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio, he's doing something else. He can't really be that big underdog main card. Like Daniel Bryan and Rey Mysterio, they fit, and Vince knows those big underguard, smaller wrestlers. Heck, they attract the audience. I think Johnny Gargano fit that bill right now. So I know his injuries played the part. Hopefully he can come back. His main roster debut was kind of meh, and I'm really hoping for better. I really want to see the NXT style Johnny wrestling we saw.
Yeah, we got him with him and Dexter Loomis, that kind of goofy kind of storyline there with the briefcase and. Yeah, I don't know. Johnny Gargano, unfortunately, is like one of these guys that I don't want to say is jinxed in the main roster, but he's certainly been one of these guys that unfortunately hasn't kind of had the luck kind of go his way here. We'll certainly see. Maybe if he gets that second push, you never know. Listen, I mean, certainly anything can happen. Listen, the Miz, right, has been a multiple-time world champion. Who would have guessed that? So anything is possible here. But Randy, I know you're a trooper, so I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say, and the floor is yours, my friend. And fire away.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. At WWE, the draft. Very interested who's really going to debut from NXT. And then again, the budget cuts, how that's going to affect. With AEW, listen, Dynamite has been really good lately. I can't complain. It's been a very good quality. But I feel
about the whole Jericho and Britt Baker thing with those Soraya doing that. That was really good, by the way.
That was really brilliant. My only question is, can Adam Cole play a face? Because we know he was so dominant with NXT as a heel. There are some superstars that can play both. Like, we saw the likes of Randy Orton, who can kind of play both. Triple H.
Yeah, Triple H has done it. Triple H, Randy Orton. I mean, Ric Flair's done it. I mean, Batista's done it. I mean,
Johnny Gargano, named a few. Drew McIntyre could do it. But some superstars, like you look at a guy like Roman, he couldn't do face no matter how hard he tried. John Cena, Rey Mysterio, I don't think could ever do a face heel. So I think for Adam Cole, if he doesn't pass this phase, because I know AEW, they need a top baby face right now. They don't have that.
Well, I think it might work before these rest of the team on Sportswire comes in. I'll let you go after this. I think it actually might work because if you're watching this kind of all-access show that they have on after Dynamite, they're basically playing off to this real-life relationship that Adam Cole and Dr. Britt Baker has. So, and that's kind of, I think, in a way, solidified Britt Baker as this big face. Maybe they were going to have plans differently, but I actually think he might be able to pull it off because of this real-life relationship that she's calling him Austin in the ring. I mean, who really knew his first name? So I kind of think he might be able to pull it off because they're playing into that relationship there. You see, if you watch this show, they talk about, his injury and how she fell for him, this vulnerability. Like, we haven't really seen that dynamic with them. So I think he might pull it off. That's just my opinion.
Absolutely. It's definitely possible. Like I said, you have your AEW have a lot of great heels, but they have no big baby face. I think Jungle Boy, Jake Perry down the road can definitely do that.
Yeah, I agree. Jungle Boy's got
Darby
that.
Allin, I have some reservations about, but I think he can do a lot of great work. MJF, you can't make that guy face no matter how hard. He's a perfect heel. So.
Well, the Bullforce Brad Rice kind of technically knows him. He could actually vouch for that in real life. He's actually we have actually had some guys on Sportswire that we've interviewed, different basketball players who actually know him like in real life, and that's really like he's one of the few people that he is who he is. It's not a joke. It's not a character. So certainly don't worry about that. He won't have a problem staying as a bad guy. But everybody follow Randy on Instagram and Twitter at Randy Dillon, and looking forward to next week. Looking forward to how this whole draft shakes up and get a week ready to backlash and see what happens on AEW throughout the weekend. Good stuff as always, my friend, and looking forward to many more in the future.
Sounds good, Tom. Take care. Have a good one.
All right, that was Randy Dillon here, the Hockey Fan Chat, and also our host here for all things related to professional wrestling here on Sportswire Radio. And we are joined here by Rob Maraska here, and Rob from Queens, Mets fan, and Mets certainly on quite a run going into this. I know we had another contest here of note, and also joined here right on cue by Chris Pizzea, Yankees, Mets kind of countering. I know Justin Gianelli will be here in 10 minutes. The Brewforce Brad Weiss probably anxiously watching the Knicks game, so we'll let him come on after the game. Knicks are up by 15. We'll see if they hang on. But fellas, how you doing tonight?
Hey Tom, how are you?
Good.
Hi Chris.
Actually, speaking of it here, the Brewforce Brad Weiss, I'm actually having the Knick game on in the background. I'm actually surprised you're here. I was thinking you were going to watch the game and then come on with us. Oh, wow. Okay. Lucky you.
It's here. Listen, first of all, I'm here. All right. Just like the Knicks. We're here today. We're here. All right. Yeah, I got it over here. I'll be peeking, but the Knicks are doing solid work. They're winning by 18, so they've had me
pretty much wire to wire, double digits most of this game here. We'll see if they're able to hang on here as the Knicks are up 18 with about 8 or so minutes. Cleveland does have possession, but obviously, fellas, we'll certainly talk about that, maybe some other things in the world of sports. But Rob Maraska, I know you got another contest up now, and I can't keep track with all of them here, but obviously, I'm sure you have a winner to announce, and anything else you might want to share about this latest one. I know it's a different one, so for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, talk about this latest contest here and our latest winner.
Yeah, it's been a contest of bliss. This one just came up unexpectedly, actually. I didn't know I was going to be able to get the cards, and I did. So I don't have a winner yet because I just put it up yesterday. So I have a winner next week. But it's actually it's an interesting card. It's Otani Babe Ruth Legends Homer at Yankee Stadium, 100 years to the day, which is pretty amazing. That's just an amazing thing. And the card has Otani and Babe Ruth on the card. It's a cool looking card. It's a cool card. So the contest started yesterday. I'll have a winner by next week. A lot of people want that card. I don't blame them. If you saw the card, the card is
Yeah, I saw it when we shared it on Twitter, and I'm also wondering. I mean, how do you get these cards? Do you buy like all these top sets, and then they give you like extras with it? I know sometimes when you used to buy the top sets for those who are baseball card collectors, they would give you like 5 bonus cards. If you bought the complete set, almost like the factory set, they would call them back in the day for the baseball card collectors, you get like an extra like pack of cards. Is that what you kind of do more or less with these?
No, I just have I have an inside person that I work
Oh, okay.
with.
All right. Well,
And lets me know when the cards are available, and I get a couple of cards, and I have the Alonso card should be coming in the mail soon, and that'll go out to the winner, and I'm gonna send a couple out to the guys too.
All right, very, very cool. I know some of these guys will be anticipating to look forward to that. And I also know that we speak about Topps right now as making baseball cards, but we'll probably be in the past tense for that because if I'm not mistaken, Topps has, I think, just this year and next year before it goes to Panini, which actually now makes almost all the sports cards. But be that as it may, certainly I'll get to the Yankees. Obviously, Yankees come up with a tough loss here, but I want to talk about the New York Mets. The New York Mets here have been on quite a run here, 6-1 on this road trip, and then this whole thing here with Max Scherzer, and I mean, I still can't figure this out here. So I want to bring in you, Rob Maraska, first. I'll let the rest of the guys jump in first. Obviously, Justin, definitely happy to have him back here as the Knicks now have a comfortable lead here. Brute Force is certainly going to be a happy guy tonight for now. But obviously, Rob Maraska, give me your thoughts on this whole situation with Max Scherzer and this Mets road trip here, and certainly impressive, to say the least, going on tonight. So give me your thoughts on both of these scenarios and anything else going on.
Okay, first, the Scherzer thing. I think these umpires are starting to get ridiculous now with this stuff. Okay, when it's cold, the pitchers need some rosin. It mixes in with sweat, which is what Scherzer said it was. They're doing these inspections now after each inning, after the half inning, after the pitcher pitches. But for him, they did it before this time, and they found a sticky substance. And you know what? It's just, it goes from one extreme where they do nothing to another extreme where it's just now it's crazy. This same umpire did it in another game a couple of days ago. And, if it's an illegal substance, yes, I could see it. But if it's a legal substance, and he kept insisting that it's rosin, and they could check the glove out, and, they could do tests and do all that stuff. But he just decided to take the 10 game suspension. This way, the Mets rotation doesn't get that screwed up if, he appeals it, and then down the road he's suspended, it'll screw it up. So he's just going to get it over with. He's not admitting guilt or anything. Just get it over with, and he'll be able to pitch the last game in the Braves series, I believe.
So you're okay, though, with him not appealing? Because at first it looked like he was going to appeal. Then I was reading today, before I get to the guys, that he wasn't going to appeal. So, I mean, you're okay with him not appealing? Because this sounds like, from what you're saying, he should appeal, but yet he's not.
Yeah, he's not appealing, like I said, because of the rotation. And we all know the Mets have problems with the starting pitching staff right now. Although, it doesn't look like it because, the fill-ins are doing their job. So far, so good with that. You know what? He took the suspension. Let's just move on from this stuff. Major League Baseball's got to get the umpires, everyone's got to be on the same page with this stuff, because if it was just rosin, and from what I've heard, a lot of times when the rosin does mix with the sweat after a couple of innings and with the weather changes, it gets sticky. So who knows? But He took the suspension, and that's just the way it's going to be. As long as he gets to pitch one of those games against the Braves, hopefully, maybe just give him some rest too.
Okay, fair enough here. And Justin, welcome back. Obviously, we know you do things for us here at the Baseball Banter Show, and want to get your impressions on this whole Max Scherzer situation. And obviously, the team's a strong play here on the road against some teams that the Mets usually struggle with here on the road here. Strong performance against the Dodgers, and yesterday looked really good. Bats were impressive. I actually watched a lot of the game yesterday, so give me your thoughts on this Met road trip and also this Max Scherzer situation, whether he should have appealed, not appealed, and just your impressions.
Yeah, first of all, it's good to be back. And as for the team, two cities that they've really been a house of horrors for the Mets, LA and San Francisco. And now let's not put the cart before the horse just yet. They're only in game 2 against San Francisco, but they're playing very good baseball. And, the Giants are not a great baseball team. They're a team that if you're the Mets sitting at 13-7, yeah, you got to beat them. So go win this series. Go take at least split. Try to take 3 out of 4, and then that would be a nice 7-3, 8-2 type road trip, which would absolutely be a tremendous road trip. Obviously you got a chance to beat up on the Oakland A's last weekend. That game Friday night was an absolute atrocity.
Won't be calling on the Oakland A's much longer, though. We'll get to that in a little while.
17 runs, 17 walks. It was, that was crazy. They did what they had to do. They beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3. Who, by the way, I got some comments on the Dodgers too, and maybe save that for a little bit later. But the Scherzer game, that was about as wild as I've ever seen it. Checking the pitcher's glove before the inning. I don't think it's something I've ever seen in the 2-3 years that they've been doing checks since they wanted to crack down on the spider tack. And I know he's probably not the best example because of some of the things he's done in his past, but there's actually a video out there that's resurfaced from Trevor Bauer from a couple of years ago, where he was mixing sweat and rosin, and the baseball was literally sticking to the palm of his hand, and it was like sticking in like loosely, like hard to drop out of his hand. So I could certainly see where Max is coming from on the whole sweat and rosin thing. Another thing that not a lot of people are mentioning too is SNY showed a camera shot of him getting some kind of adhesive tape put on his hand. I think it had something to do with the pitch comm, because he was clicking buttons with the pitch comm inside his glove or something, to kind of or to hear the pitch, something like that. And I don't know if that caused some of the residue as well, but you know what? I would rather have him pitch against Atlanta, and obviously he is eligible to pitch the last game against Atlanta with the 10-game suspension being up. Obviously if he does appeal and loses that appeal and has to face the 10 games.
Well, I think I read that he didn't want to appeal because he felt that it wouldn't be an independent process, that basically MLB was I was reading today in the paper before we went on the air a little while ago, that basically that the way that they do this arbitration process kind of in a way and deciding these suspensions and appeals.
He thought it was going to be an independent arbitrator. It's going to be MLB. So he also felt like he had no chance and that they were going to stack the card. They were going to stack the cards against them. So that was going to be it was going to be tough for him to win, even if he has a legitimate case. And I tend to think he does actually. Kind of just seeing. You don't really know what he's doing down inside the dugout, downside the tunnel, but I don't know. I tend to believe him here. I think he had some. He clearly had something, but if it's sweat and rosin, and clearly sweat and rosin can create a sticky, tacky substance. So I don't know. I'm glad he's just going to get the suspension out of the way, honestly.
All right, well, I'm going to ask Chris and the Brew Force this question here in a few minutes, and obviously, again, maybe I'll have to get back to you guys all and try to mix sweat and rosin and see if it comes out to be as sticky as what we hear. But the Brew Force Bryce, I'm actually curious in a way. Obviously, you're a happy man right now. I was looking at all those ex-Knicks out there in the court watching outside the game. I was our buddy Steve Saperstein. I made sure to tag you there because even he's at the game. I mean, I guess that's what you get when you're hobnobbing with the big wigs. I see Bernard King, Latrell Sprewell. Didn't realize Sprewell was alive. I saw John Starks. I mean, I saw who's who of ex-Knicks, but obviously you're not there. You're there with us. And my first thought is, have you actually ever mixed sweat and rosin? I mean, I actually have to ask the burning question before anything else. Have you actually done this before?
No, I have not, Tom. I have not
Really? You
experimented with that. All right, certainly. I was not trying to. I was not trying to ever cheat. And listen, you see, it cuts me off just when I tell you that I don't do it. So it's trying to get. You know what it's trying to do, Tom Bryce? It's trying to light up the fire of one man named John Gonzalez to get a new source out there and a new report that he can come up with now.
Well, to
all right?
be fair, we ask you, speaking of rosin, in bowling, you actually use rosin. And our guest Tuesday night, which you were commenting back and forth with Mr. Divine Chisholm, he's a very good bowler, and you didn't want to bowl against him, and you actually use rosin.
Well, I will say this: I don't use rosin when I'm bowling, and maybe I do to have a chance against him because 225 is way over. Now,
he's like a legit bowler. He's like, look, I'm in my zone and stuff.
The last time I bowled, I barely got 100. So, 225, I mean, damn. But anyway, to comment on the Mets real quick, just to get a few thoughts in. All right, number one, I agree with everything the guys are saying about Max Scherzer. I actually was going to make the joke that the guy who we needed to get on this, Mr. Source, Mr. Report, Mr. I Make Up Reports, John Gonzalez, all right? Let's hear what he has to say on it because that's what I want to hear.
After the next game, I have a feeling he'll be on with a few other people. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so, we'll see what he has to say there. But in regards to the Mets, I agree with the guys. They're playing good baseball. Obviously, Nimmo is absolutely raking and just hitting the ball everywhere. Pete Alonso as well, hitting really well.
Pete Alonso's got 9 home runs already. My goodness.
It's insane. So, those two guys are obviously leading the lineup. Lindor, even though he hasn't been great, he's doing enough. I think there are other guys in that line. McNeil's starting to hit as well. I got on him last week. But let me do my normal spot, Tom, right? Somebody become my new segment on this show. Right? Guys who I pick on every week, all right? Because I got 2 more. Every week I get 2 guys, all right? And I got 2 more to pick on this week. All right, number 1, all right, Mark Canha. All right, let me pick on him right now.
Last week, though, we posted on Instagram, and people were commenting on that. You did.
Yeah, so I'm going to listen. This is a good segment. We might need a sponsor. We might need a name. All right, but I'm going to pick on people. Mark Canha, all right? Why? What is this guy doing right now? All right, he's not really doing anything productive. He's hitting in the middle of the lineup, right? He's batting .209, right? Not really doing a whole lot of hitting, right?
Yeah, he's awful. I mean, I look at him when I'm watching these games. I'm like, what is he doing?
Yeah, he looks lost out there. I mean, he just looks lost at the plate. He still plays his role. He still takes pitches. He still has decent at-bats. He's just not getting anything done. So I would really look at Canha right now because we're at this point, Tom, where, you have McNeil, and we talked about it last week, where you got Mauricio.
McNeil looked good, though, yesterday.
Yeah, and, I've been talking about Mauricio and obviously Beatty there. And, we got so many other guys who need position, and Mauricio needs to be on the team. I've said that for now the last couple of weeks. Needs to be on the team. We need to get him at bats. And this guy, Canha, who's supposed to be the left fielder for the Mets, I don't think is getting the job done. We've already taken care of one guy who's not gotten the job done in Escobar, who's now playing on part-time basis. I think Canha might be next because he needs to really, I don't know if he's the full-time player. And let me talk about another guy who's a part-time player. A good friend of ours, Ernest Stubbs, loves this man. All right, yeah, but I'm going to get on right now. Tomas Nido. All right, Tomas Nido. I mean, listen, we talk about the Mendoza line being 200. What's 100? What's the line? What do we call that? I mean, because this guy is in a week, he's a day.
100. You know what it is? It's the Gallo line. Remember Joey Gallo?
The Gallo line. There we go. Yeah, all right. Gallo line. Because this guy can't even float above that line. I mean, he's going to be under that line the next game. He's batting 109. I mean, can you do a little better than that, Nito? I mean,
I know trying to get Ernest mad at you. Are you mad because you didn't see him when you were there down in the opening series in Miami?
He could have said hello. I'll say that. But, I like Ernest. So I like Ernest. But what I will say is I'm not liking Nito right now. He doesn't hit. Alvarez needs to play more, in my opinion, even though he hasn't really gotten it going. Give the kid a chance to play more than, once every other day. Nito's not getting the job done, and he needs to be a little more productive than 109. I mean, damn, I could hit 109 maybe. So that is saying it all right there. So those two guys I'm definitely picking on. But I will say I got to give credit to guys, especially in the rotation, like McGill. Sanga, even though he didn't have a great start, has been pretty solid. The guys who are in the rotation are doing their jobs. Our bullpen is doing their job for the most part. Not really too much of a, we kind of got worried when we got guys going down like Diaz, obviously. Robertson's been doing a good job. Ottavino's been doing a good job. So we've been solid there. But I want to see some of these guys who I always had to pick on, pick it up. And you know what, Tom? I got to say this. I've picked on some guys, and it's worked. They've waken up. So they brute force this message, and they pick up their – let's hope it happens.
Well, I'll say this. We do have a couple of clips out there. One of them with us on Instagram that literally went viral. So maybe there are people that are listening because on Instagram, which Instagram's a little bit better when it comes to engagements versus Twitter, because I feel like when Twitter, people say, oh, you get like 1,000 views, but really like people listen to 10 seconds. But on Instagram, if you get like 1,000+ views, it usually means they listen to like a good portion of the clip. So I will say that there are people out there. We had like 1,200+ views with the Jesse Winter clip. So there are people out there that listen to us. I'm not quite sure, but I got to ask you before I get to Chris. So Max Scherzer's suspension and the appeal and the dropping of the appeal, I mean, what did you make of that?
I think he did make the right decision it was like, it wasn't, I wouldn't say a lose-lose situation, but it wasn't like he was going to win. I think a lot of people, really thought that he wasn't going to win this, our suspension, but listen, he made the right choice. I think he's just got to take it. As Justin said, the Atlanta series, Tom Bryce's Atlanta Braves, I should say. All right, they're coming to town.
You know what? You want to go down that road? Who's in first place?
They are. But what I'm saying is they're coming to town. And when they come to town.
I know. I'm just saying.
When they come to town, all right, you got to win the series. So you need your best pitchers out there. So Scherzer, all right, being available for that series is very important. That is a very important series, as all of them are against the Atlanta Braves. And especially now, Tom, when you're not playing as many games against them like you used to.
I know, 13 games. I was listening to
right, you're not playing head-to-head. So these series really mean a lot, to the Mets. So he's got to pitch. I know he hasn't been Scherzer-like dominant, but he is our best pitcher in that rotation with Senga right now. So he's got to pitch in that series. I think this was just kind of a saying. Even he said it. You listen to his presser. He said it. I want to pitch against Atlanta. Well, guess what? Damn right you want to pitch against Atlanta because they're in first place, as Tom mentioned. All right? And you got to be able to pitch that game.
Houston did catch him tonight, though. After the Braves get the lead early, Houston does come back on him, if that means anything. You there, Brad? You there?
We lost Brad.
Yeah.
He's down with the bad Wi-Fi again.
Tom's comment about history, because I thought that was about to talk about history with the Braves.
No, I was just going to say, actually, that Houston actually came back tonight and beat Atlanta. Atlanta was up 4-1.
All right, good. So you're about to give me good news. All right, good.
I mean, good news for tonight. But before I get to Chris, I want to give a shout-out to Joseph Bostrom, Joseph G. Bostrom. That's his middle initial. It says, good evening, gentlemen. Sorry, I am late finishing the Knicks beatdown of the Cavs with the Garden. I believe the first team the entire NBA playoffs or regular season to have scored fewer than 80 points. I would not have guessed that, but that's an impressive feat there. So Knicks get a big one. We'll talk about that in a little while. But Chris, I mean, I'll get to the Yankees in a second. But the first thing I got to ask is, what did you make of this whole Max Scherzer suspension here and this lack of appeal? I mean, I got to think it's a big issue around the league. And I know you and Patrick will definitely talk about it on Monday's Talking Rivals show. Got a chance to listen to the show yesterday. And just impressions on that before we get to the Bronx Bombers.
You know what? I think it's going to lead to baseball probably getting rid of, you're probably not going to be allowed to put anything on your hands in the dugout now, because that's where it seems to be a problem. Because even with Herman with the Yankees, he had the big warning and I think it was against the Twins.
Yep.
And he supposedly was putting on rosin or whatever in the dugout. And the umpire had warned him and told him to clean his hands and all this kind of stuff. So I think that's what it's going to lead to. I think it's going to lead to MLB banning any kind of substance. I guess only rosin you could use anyway, but using rosin in the dugout, you're probably not going to be allowed to do it there either, because that's where, because part of the rules they're saying is that if you use too much rosin, that could also be you could get chucked for that too. So he probably just had too much rosin on his hand. Because I can't see this guy using some foreign substance to cheat or something like that. I can't see any pitcher doing that at this point because they check you after every inning. So it's got to be really hard to get away with it. So why would a guy like Scherzer, who's been around forever, probably going to the Hall of Fame, and and he's gonna ruin his reputation by cheating or using foreign substance? So I don't think he was using a foreign substance. I think he just used maybe excess rosin, and with the sweat, it got sticky and all that and whatever. So it is what it is. He's off for a couple of weeks or whatever, 10 games. It's not a big
So
deal.
you think then this is not? So you think then this is not going to be something we see more often, maybe due to this pitch clock or anything else like that? You think it's just one of these isolated incidents, then, basically?
I think so. I think it is, and I really think they're gonna. I really think they're gonna outlaw using stuff inside the inside the dugout, because that's where it seems like it's being a problem. I mean, they made him change his glove, and they said his hand was stickier when he got the new glove. And then the umps were complaining that their hands were sticky even after they threw him out. They couldn't get the stuff off his hands. So I don't know what it was, but if it was rosin and sweat, it is what it is. I don't know. I just can't see him cheating, like using a foreign. I just can't see him doing that. It makes no sense. I mean,
we'll figure it out here. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's something I'm sure that we'll certainly hear on different talk radio sites and such here, and I'm sure it'll be a continued topic and maybe even poked fun at Mr. Scherzer.
Maybe the real man problem with Phil Cuzzy. Did anyone ever think of that?
Yeah, listen,
sucks anyway. He's not a good umpire.
No, he's not.
Hey, like Scherzer said.
Go ahead, Rob Maraska, jump in.
Yeah, like Scherzer said, I'd have to be an idiot to come out in the fourth inning with the foreign substance on when I know they're going to check me.
So then should we really be looking at the umpire here? And I mean, taking on a veteran like Scherzer and a veteran, you're going to take a word of a guy who's certainly a Hall of Famer and done this, and that in the game. And I mean, so then maybe it's the umpire we should have been thinking about more.
Do you think they tried to make an example of him after the first time because of what happened with Herman last week? Once they kind of noticed that in the first place, you think maybe they tried to make an example of Scherzer?
Would they want to make him an example? Like
that was going to be my exact point. Why go against him? Why poke the bear?
Right.
Because the umpires have egos. That's strange.
Why. I just think they're gonna tinker the rule or something, because how can you put too much rosin on your hand? It's it's that thing. I mean, and I think they're gonna outlaw it, putting stuff on your hand while you're in the dugout, because if it's not that, how much can you put on the mound?
Also, aren't these guys also putting rosin on because they develop calluses on their fingers and they're certainly gripping the ball? And
what the baseball does to your fingernails, those laces on the baseball are very deep, and the way you like pinch your nails into the baseball for the proper grip, it really does eat at the parts of your finger, and it is tough. The rosin does help, and you're putting it on your wrist, you're putting it on your hand, and you're making sure you have the proper grip for the baseball. I mean, it is also about safety too, right? Stuff like this does help a pitcher gain better control.
Right, guys.
I understand. I understand they were trying to make an example of it a few years ago with the whole Spider Tech situation because of the spin rates going incredibly up, and that's another thing. Max Scherzer's spin rates did not really change from previous starts. So he was pitching his normal self, but you need to have. We see all these hit batters. I mean, you see the Mets get hit all the time, right? Mets lead the league and get hit. Like, you've seen 3 different guys get hit in the face this year. Especially back in spring training, you saw Turner, saw a couple other guys in the regular season get hit in the face with the baseball. You don't want that. And if guys can't, grip the ball properly, because the brand new baseballs are super slick. And it's very hard to control unless you're using the rosin. And all you got to do to combine the sweat and rosin, all you got to do is run your fingers through your hair. You're dabbing up sweat, and now it's mixed in with the rosin.
Well, I mean, look, I could see why and I hate to bring this up, Brad, because of the bowling aspect, because when you bowl, you use rosin because it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah,
with your fingers.
you're using the bowling too.
Yeah, use it in bowling for the same kind of reason.
I'll be honest, I've bowled a lot in my life. I used to bowl a lot.
Sure.
And I used the rosin bag a lot. I never got sticky.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was kind of
thinking the rosin itself is a very dry substance.
Yeah,
so if
it's like baby powder,
sweating,
it actually dries your sweat up. It's just the opposite.
Yeah.
That's why when you bowl, like your hands get a little, get some sweat on it. So now you're picking up the ball. You want better grip, so you use the rosin, and it actually dries up the sweat.
But bowlers are not bowling in extreme weather conditions. Like
no, not at all.
Right. So that's the difference.
Was it that hot at the
outside moisture too has a lot to do with why it might be more sticky on a baseball, and the sweat might stick.
And they could also change the balls too. Like you said, the balls are very slick. I think it's Korean baseball? They use the tackier ball, or is it Japan? It's one of them that use a tackier ball. They should use that. They should just go to that. It'll help it out.
I'm going to use what you posted on Facebook and the Sports Authorities group as kind of a joke here with this, because I think it was you who posted last week about 1 billion pounds have basically been, I guess, eaten from Big League Chew. So can he use Big League Chew? Because that stuff is gummy and chewy. Can he use that actually to grip the ball?
That's an illegal substance, so probably no.
No, probably not.
It was actually a serious question that turned into something else here. All right, fair enough. I got all that sense.
What does LeBron use when he throws it up? Isn't that rosin? Before every game, doesn't he do that rosin?
Yeah, like
excuse me,
the
rosin stuff.
Baby powder? Was it baby?
Is it
baby powder or something?
Yes, powder. Yeah.
Did the brute force do that too when he played basketball, or no?
What's that?
Did the brute force do that too before every game?
No,
I don't remember you doing that, Brad. I don't remember anybody at SJL doing that.
No,
I mean,
nobody in Division III is doing that. If they are, there's something special, I guess. So
I was going to say, because I watched you play live. I watched a lot of the guys you played against, and we watched them. Listen, we cover these guys, and I actually hadn't thought it at our level, Brad, at D3. I don't think anybody.
That would have been pretty cool, though.
That would have been cool.
Can I actually? Pretty cool. Brad, it's okay if I say this joke. I don't think that some of these SIDs or these ADs could actually afford to put rosin and baking powder and baby powder out there for the players to use. No, you'd be surprised. I mean, with these athletic departments, Brad, you don't have to comment on this one. I can kind of say it out there, but some of these schools, I don't think they could actually afford the extra supplies. No, I'm dead serious. You go to some of these gyms.
Listen. Just like a restaurant, a D3 school is a BYOBP. Bring your own baby powder.
Well, to be honest, I'm not trying to poke fun because we love our players here, but these schools, not the players, it kind of is that environment. We had Divine on Tuesday, a basketball player, D3 player. You were at college. He was basically like, look, I had a baby. I had to work. I had to go to school. I had to practice. That's kind of that lifestyle. So, in a way here, and Joey Bostrom says it's baking powder. Yeah, I think that's the baking powder for the LeBron thing. Okay.
Is it really?
Fair enough.
I didn't know that.
That's what he said. Joseph
baking
Bostrom.
Powder.
Joseph G.
Well, what does it do, though? Is it tacky? Is that what it makes it?
I have no idea.
I never heard of that.
And I don't know. I don't know exactly how slick the NBA ball is either. It probably is. They're brand new basketballs too.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Every game.
Well, every ball, you're not using the same ball. Like if you're going out to the schoolyard, you have that same. I have a basketball in my basement. I've had the same basketball since 10 years, 11 years.
Well, they use the same basketball for the entire game.
Yeah, but it's different when you have the same ball for year after year.
Yeah. It's probably one and done.
You're also not dribbling on concrete either.
No, I'm not going out that. Yeah, I'm not doing it to that level. Certainly, but I guess that'll answer the Joseph Bostrom point here. But be that as it may, here, and also Joseph Bostrom says John Gonzalez does the same thing. You say why, Brad White?
Confirm that source.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I mean, I'll at
Make
least
sure you
listen.
tell John Gonzalez too.
Okay. All right. You know what? I'll certainly get to that. But I want to talk about the Yankees. Obviously, Yankees do have a very, very high-profile series here with the Blue Jays, and unfortunately, Yankees come up with the short end of the stick here. But still, some games here coming up at the stadium. And Chris, I mean, give me your impression. Say the good news was Chapman, who was coming into the series, I think was hitting like 400. He doesn't get hit. He doesn't get on base a couple of times, but Guerrero certainly powers the Blue Jay offense. And I mean, talk to me about where we are. Yankees were pretty good, I think, going into this series, though. So give me your impressions here on tonight and kind of this week that was for our Bronx Bombers.
Yeah, we haven't lost the series yet. I think that's the positive here.
And that's with Stanton injured again. Stanton, who basically said, "Yeah, it's my fault. I'm on the IL." I can't believe a player would say that.
I mean, that guy's in as good a shape as you want a player or anybody to be in, and he's always getting hurt. I mean, I'm sure it's frustrating for him. He wants to be out there. He said it in the in his interview. So it stinks, but what are you going to do? The guy's he gets hurt. You got to move on. You got to next man up type of thing. But thankfully, that they're still winning. They split with the Angels after losing the first two. And now we got Toronto. We lost the first game. Herman was pitching, but the offense did nothing. They lost 6-1. There was a little bit of a...
Herman was okay tonight. He was okay. He wasn't great, but he didn't pitch horribly.
You know what? I can't ask for much more from Herman.
4 runs, 6 innings against
Toronto.
That's their point.
Yeah, I'll take that against Toronto. We just got to score more runs. Tomorrow's going to be better. You got Cole against Manoah, so that should be a great matchup. Should be a great game.
Yep.
And hopefully it sets up Sunday as the rubber game in this series. So you just got to keep basically treading water until all these guys come back. We got good news. Bader is down in Somerset rehabbing, so he should be back in a few days. So that'd be great. We get him back. Sevy, I think, will start down there sometime next week. It seems like he's going to start a rehab start. So how many starts he's going to have? So we'll see. Rodon got some sort of a back issue now while he was rehabbing. So that's another.
You'll never see that guy. You'll never see that guy.
Another.
Maybe will we see him by Memorial Day? You think? I mean, today is the 21st, going to the 22nd.
No, that's pushing it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say
you got to think he's got to ramp up for 5 starts.
You know what? I'll be happy if he gets it before the All-Star break. That's
Well,
what I'm hoping
That's
for.
not what fans were hoping to hear. I mean, when this injury happened, we were thinking, all right, maybe
what this Yankees team reminds me of? They remind me of last year's Mets, where they were just winning series after series, but they weren't. But the Yankees aren't really sweeping teams either.
No.
Everybody in that division,
they split with.
And that's what you got to do.
They split with Minnesota.
Minnesota. I said the Angels.
Yeah, because Angels played Boston on Monday, so it was 2 out of 3 against the Angels. So they just continue to win series.
But you know what's so interesting, Chris, about that division is going into today. I think everybody was at 500 or better. And I was listening to you and Patrick talk about this on the Talking Rivals show, and originally you were going to do the show and talk about how the Red Sox were kind of, maybe toward the bottom, and they still are in a sense. But everybody in that division, I mean, Baltimore was on a winning streak going into today. Tampa, obviously, we know about, and that division's everybody's kind of bunched up, and I know Tampa's come back to earth a little bit here, but I mean that division, is a really difficult division right now. I mean, everybody there at the moment, remains to be seen with teams like certainly, Boston and will Baltimore continue to keep this up. But I mean, that division is just so tough right now.
Yeah, and I was telling him too. I was like, no team could have a bad month like the Yankees had last year from the All-Star break into August. No team could do that in the American League East this year, because if they do, they're just going to fall behind and they're not going to be able to catch.
If the Yankees do that, they're not beating the Rays.
Yeah, no team can do that.
The Rays on April 21st have a 5-game lead on the Yankees. I think 4.5 right now on the Orioles.
Right, and we haven't lost this series.
They're opening it up quickly.
Yeah, they're 17-3, and they've come back to earth a little bit. Take a step back for a second, right?
I think they will. I like Tampa. I like that they have a good team, but I think they're going to come down. I still think they're going to make the playoffs. I just don't think they're going to win the division.
Well, they play. If you think about it, they play 500, just 500 the rest of the year, guys. Right? That would put them at the very worst, a wild card, right? 88 wins.
Yeah, they're definitely in the playoffs. They have a really good pitching staff. The rotation's really good. Glasnow's not even pitching yet.
No.
their bullpen is always whoever they have in there is.
I
great.
will say losing Jeffrey Springs is going to be a massive blow.
Yeah, but you know what?
But guess what? They find another guy.
Back.
They
You know what?
always find another
Always
guy.
somebody else.
Exactly. They'll get somebody off the scrap heap and turn him into a Cy Young Award guy.
Yeah.
So it's just their offense. You got to keep Franco healthy. If he stays healthy the whole year, that's a superstar in your lineup.
Yep.
And they'll be fine. I think they'll be fine. I think you're going to have at least 3 guys, 3 teams coming out of that division in the playoffs.
I'm a big Yandy Diaz guy, too. He's been very good for Tampa at third base.
All right, here, let me get to a couple of comments here. I'm going to be kind on some of them. So let me go with Joey Bostrom first, because Anthony Finkel, kind of the Manny Ramirez here of the Sportswire radio comment section usually. Anthony Finkel being Anthony. I think that's kind of the best way to put it here. Good series win against the Angels. Stanton going down will hurt. Yeah, Stanton, I mean, we spoke about this guy. I mean, he's almost like, I hate to bring up the wrestling terms here because some people are like, what are you talking about? He reminds me so much of like a Kevin Nash. You look at this guy on paper, Stan. He's in phenomenal shape. He's got the size, the build. He should be right out of Central Casting, right up there with Judge. But the guy could never put it together. That was Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash had the look, he had the size, and guy could never stay healthy. And that's
I think he's wound too tightly to be a baseball player.
Yeah, I've heard that before. We've talked about this before. Hopefully get this series against Toronto. You've still got some games. Good point, Justin. Also, the Rays always find ways. They're almost like, to me, like the Braves were at the tail end of their run of division titles, where they would get these guys and just kind of find them. And all of a sudden, I think the Braves, remember one year the Braves had Jarrett Wright even. Jarrett Wright has a great year for them. And they would just find these different guys, and they would find a way to win. And the Rays do it obviously with less payroll than the Braves. I mean, the Braves certainly spend a lot more than the Rays, but they do it. It's just amazing here. And Anthony Finkel goes brute. I think it's because of the Knicks' big win. He also wants a home run trident or home run chain. LOL, I think he's kind of into that right now. And also he says, what's up, fellas? Checking in from Charleston, South Carolina. I guess he's moving down the coast here toward Brooklyn. He says, how about them Brooklyn Nets break out the brooms? He's being a little facetious. Let's be a little bit kind there. Let's certainly move away from that. But, for you, Rob Moroska, obviously spoke about the Yankees a little bit. Yankees certainly are off to a good start. Tough night tonight, but obviously still some games up. But I think the way the team is played, you got to be happy. And give me your impression on the week that was for the Bronx Bombers.
Yeah, they haven't, like Chris said, they haven't lost a series. So, if Tampa doesn't go, doesn't have this great start, the Yankees are in first place.
Yep.
So the Yankees... No, you know what? They get it done no matter what. Injuries, whatever. They're another team too that they get it done. They do what they have to do, and they have some guys coming back. And I would not worry about the Yankees at all. The Yankees are going to be in the postseason as usual. Once they get there, that's where you got to start worrying. Is Houston in the Yankees' heads? What's with that? But the Yankees, I'm not worried about the Yankees.
Yeah, and obviously Judge has got 6 home runs so far. Rizzo's been off to a good start. So there's definitely things in the lineup hasn't been overpowering, but it's been good enough. And again, I think the point was made. I think it was just in a way. The Rays, I think, are kind of like more like last year's Yankees. Remember, the last year's Yankees had just, the start. Remember we were talking about it, and Chris kind of touched upon it. I think they were 61-21 or something like at the 81 game mark. The Yankees, I think, had 60 wins already. We were talking about the Yankees on this historic pace, and
weren't they like 65-27 or something at the All-Star break?
Yeah, they were like 38 games over 500. We were talking about the Yankees maybe eclipsing the 2001 Mariners
I don't even think they reached 100 wins.
Did the Yankees? Let me think. Well, the crack staff will work on that, but I mean, the Yankees certainly they did tail off. There's no question.
Yeah, that whole month of August, they were, I think, below 500 or
They wound up. I think the lead only shrunk to what 2 and it was a 2.5 at one point.
At one point, I think it was it the Rays? I think that were chasing them down.
Yeah, like 2 games back, maybe 2.5, and then the Yankees kind of were able to kind of put it together a little bit, and were able to at least certainly hang on there. Yankees 99 wins, crack staff. So we certainly appreciate that. So I mean, obviously, Rob Moroska's points there, and for you, Justin, although we kind of touched upon it a little bit with the Yankees, but any other things you want to add on the Bronx Bombers before I move on and for Rob Moroska talk about the future of the Oakland Athletics?
Yeah, again, like I reiterated before, the Yankees are fine. They're a very good baseball team, and yes, they're going through a ton of injuries right now, but so are a lot of other teams. And the The Yankees are always built to withstand injuries. There's only two players that if they go down, they're not withstanding. That's Garrett Cole and Aaron Judge. If those two guys are on the field, then there's no worries. The Yankees are going to figure it out. They're going to be fine. Am I going to say they're going to win the division? I don't know. That's dicey because the Rays have been so good. And I know that they are bound to cool off at some point. But at some point, it's time to stop doubting the freaking Rays. I said I didn't think they were a playoff team this year. I said they were probably the fourth best team in the AL East. Well, I look like an idiot.
Well, I'll tell you what, the fourth best team in the AL East, actually, the way it looks right now, might even make the playoffs. I mean, to be fair.
That is true. I mean, there is a chance that the three AL East teams could win all wild card spots. And
listen, Baltimore right now,
get one team in.
Hot on Baltimore, Toronto's right there in the Yankees. I mean, those three teams could end up with, like I said, 88 wins or more, and they all make
it really depends on how the AL West shapes out, especially with Seattle and Houston. I know Houston hasn't been off to the greatest of starts.
Texas has been a big surprise right now.
Texas has been a surprise, but I don't really trust them. They lost Seager to a hamstring injury. That's really gonna hurt that lineup. I don't really trust Texas. It's Seattle and Houston for me in the AL West. The AL Central is definitely a one-team race. One for the playoffs. It's whoever wins that division.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's one spot.
Or Minnesota. And that fourth AL East team is going to have to fight with the loser of the AL West. I think that's really what it comes down to. And you know what? I said the Yankees would be a wild card team at the start of the year, and I remain steadfast in that. I do believe that even if the Rays fall back to earth a little bit, I'm still a huge believer in the Blue Jays. I really am. I really think that it's finally their time. It's finally their time to shine, and they're going to have a big year and a big run in October. And the Yankees, the Yankees will still win their 92 to 95 games.
I think if you
what 90, that team does.
I think 91. Yeah, I think 91 wins would comfortably get you in the playoffs in a way. I mean, everybody seems to be high on the Blue Jays, and almost in a way, they're kind of waiting to break in their moment in the postseason. I hate to say it, it's almost like their counterparts in the NHL, the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are dying to win a playoff series.
Hey. The Leafs are going to the Cup Finals this year. You mark my words.
I'll tell you what, if the way they played yesterday, maybe let's let them win a postseason series first. That's what I think what their fans are saying. But before I get to the Brute Force here, Randy and I were speaking about that actually a little while ago, and shout out to Randy. Cole has been amazing. Yes, Cole has definitely been lights out here, and DeGrom has a wrist injury for Texas. What a surprise there about Jacob DeGrom. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, there's something also I need to put to bed right now. Because Joey brought it up in that last one, not the DeGrom one, but the one before that.
Yeah, because Cole. Yep.
Garrett Cole's the best pitcher in baseball, bar none. He's the best pitcher in baseball.
I mean, so far he's looked at. I'll tell you that much. I mean, certainly for the Yankees, you got to be feeling really good, like you said. There's two guys.
And listen, Jacob DeGrom's still every bit as talented. Garrett Cole's out there every 5 days. Garrett Cole's always busting his ass every 5 days, 6-7 innings, sometimes more. You talk about the complete game shutout he had in his last start. I mean, that
we've never doubted him in the regular season. Garrett Cole, we've never doubted his stuff in the regular season. If you think about his career.
But even in the playoffs, he's good. He had that one bad outing, obviously.
Listen, last year wasn't him. Last year wasn't on
him. No, I agree. But as a Yankee in the regular season to the postseason, we've never doubted him in the regular season. I mean, I would hear Bobby Tats and his crew talk about this.
Listen, I know we can't forget the 2021 wild card round against Boston. Where
outside of that, he's been very good in the playoffs. But I don't know what people are talking about.
You should tell Bobby and Donald Stewart that.
Next time you go the wrong tree, if they're barking at if they're complaining about Cole, they're barking up the wrong tree.
No, not this season. But in the past, they did. Not this season. I gotta give the guys this.
Even in the past, even in the playoffs, the Yankees pitched fine. It's never been the pitching; it's been their bats. They just completely fall asleep in the playoffs. That's the problem.
Well, listen, the postseason
guy is not even hitting his weight in the playoffs.
Well, true. I mean, listen, it's
My
such a
weight.
crapshoot here.
In the
But before
playoffs.
I get to somebody who's a strong weight, a brute like weight in the Brute Force Brad Weiss, and Alonzo has been ridiculous to us. Yes, we'll definitely spend some time back on that in a few minutes. But I mean, Brad, anything you want to add on the Bronx Bombers? I mean, certainly they're off to a good start, but anything differently that you want to add compared to what the guys here have said, or anything else on your mind?
I mean, you guys have basically said it. I mean, there's not a lot to add. I'll add a little bit of brute force fire to it. But certainly, no. The Yankees obviously are doing their thing. They're as Chris accurately said, they're winning series, which is the most important thing. Especially when you have so many injuries. I mean, we talked about them just treading water, just doing what it takes to just stay stable during all these injuries, and they've done just that.
Been out. Rodon's been out.
Yeah, you go down the list. Bader, I think, is another one. That's a big name, Bader.
Yep.
And the reason why I bring up Bader is because I know there's got to be somewhere, Chris. There's got to be a countdown for days of Kiner Falefa being in the lineup because today he's playing in center field. For God's sake,
I was reading
He's
the
been
newspaper
solid
today.
though. I'm not going to complain about him. He's not.
I will say, listen, I'm not saying that, but you know that's not what you want out there. You want Bader. You would rather have Stanton, although obviously you're not going to for a while. So listen, I get it, but 160. I mean, I'd like to see a little more. I will give you that though, Chris. He has gotten a little better, but I don't think you want to see him in the lineup as much as we probably see him. So, and Justin has mentioned that Pete just hit another home run. So I have to bring that up quickly.
That's 10 home runs already. We're not even in the end of April yet. He's got 10 home runs. I mean, we're going on certainly an interesting start here for him. And
Justin, you're on mute.
Let me unmute him. Can't unmute him. He unmuted himself.
Justin, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Bro, when I tell you that ball was down the middle, that was right freaking down the middle, and he just hammered it.
But to get back to the Yankees quickly, yeah, I mean, the guy said it. I mean, I do think that this is actually, if they win this series, that would be a big accomplishment for the Yankees. And I know, beating the Blue Jays, the Yankees have done it, but with the lineup that they're throwing out there right now, which is not their A lineup, I think for them to go out there and win this series would be a very nice accomplishment against a Blue Jays team that obviously, same record as the Yankees at the moment, but we do think are going to do things this year. So to win the series against them now with the current Yankees lineup compared to probably what they will have when they play Toronto later in the season, it would be nice to get the wins now. And, you feel a lot better about yourself later in the season. To the guys, again, Garrett Cole's been great. I kind of agree with Justin, especially in the American League. It's not even a debate. I would say that Sandy Alcantara in the NL, even though he hasn't had a great start, I still consider him one of the better pitchers in baseball. You could look at some of those Milwaukee starters and think about it. There's a few other guys I throw in there, but Garrett Cole is definitely there. I'm not debating that. So certainly the Yankees, once again, Chris also talked about the bullpen in the past. The bullpen's been okay, been doing, a good enough job of recent. So I'm going to give the Yankees a nice week and give them a little bit of pass. No crazy talk. No Boone trashing, all right? We're just going to say they're doing their job, and that's right now where the Yankees are at.
They always have. I mean, look, the win totals in the regular season have always said. I know we've had certainly Yankee teams that have slumped at times. So, I mean, to be fair, those are certainly things. And also want to update everybody here. The Mets are up 4-0. So the Mets up 4-0. Alonso 10 home runs here. We're essentially just about 3 weeks into the season. So he's off to another strong start.
I got another baseball update.
All right.
Shohei Ohtani, 7 innings, 2 hits, 11 strikeouts tonight for the Yankees.
Well, Rob Morales got the Babe Ruth card there going there with Ohtani.
Shohei Ohtani is a cheat code. That's what he is. He's a cheat code. He's not fair.
The only other thing
he's legitimately already got the AL MVP on lockdown. It's over.
Well, I think obviously it's very special.
First of all,
well, he certainly do that. And also, I wanted to give a congratulations. I know it's going to disappoint some of the Met guys here, but Clayton Kershaw wins his 200th game earlier this week. 200 career wins. Obviously, caps off a career that's going to go to Cooperstown. Obviously, still has a lot left in the tank, but 200 wins, I think, in this day and age is certainly a huge milestone. And looking at his career and his body of work and accomplishments, the fact that he's made it here to 200 wins, I think very, very impressive. So
I can comfortably say
long time.
I can comfortably say, and obviously my baseball years don't go back as far as some of you other guys here, but for my money, Clayton Kershaw is the greatest pitcher I've ever watched. It's not particularly close. I mean,
Not even Verlander, like 2012 in his body of work. I mean, because Verlander's got a comparable career. Even Scherzer as well.
I'll take Kershaw over Verlander any day of the week. And what he's done, and what he's done to reinvent himself for the last couple of years, Kershaw. It just reminds you of how great he is. The only guy that I would say would come close would be Pedro Martinez, but Pedro was a short spurt, really.
Yeah, Pedro's run. I don't want to say it's like Sandy Koufax, but he had essentially
not quite Sandy Koufax, but he did have a short spurt where the longevity of Clayton Kershaw. Remember, this guy had a 2.20 ERA last year at 34 years old, right? And now here he is at 35, pitching about as good as ever. I mean, you could have fooled me. I would have thought he's 25 last night. Minus a couple nights ago, minus the velocity, right? He's not throwing 95 anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting. I mean, Pedro had 5 years. I want to say 5 great years. One of them with the Mets, but was the body of work. I mean,
listen, Clayton's won 5. He's won 5 ERA titles. I think 4 in a row. He's won 5 ERA titles. His ERA is in the low 2s almost every year. I mean, he really is. I mean. Guys, enjoy him because he's not going to be around for much longer.
I mean, my one question would be
he is certainly a generational talent.
Before I move on to the A's news, because I know Rob Moroska's chomping at the big bits of it, I guess I would say, did you watch Randy Johnson at all, or Roger Clemens or Greg Maddux? Because they did overlap in 2000. I mean, those guys.
I will say. Most of Maddox's career, most of Clemens' career, because they began in the 80s, definitely a little bit before my time. So I don't want to count that. You can make a more valid argument on Randy Johnson, late 90s to the 2000s.
Because I think Randy Johnson's body of work was really
pure dominance of Randy Johnson. But I also watched Randy Johnson fall off a cliff at the end.
He was older than Kershaw at the end.
True. But we've also yet to see Clayton fall off a cliff.
Right. Well, he's only 34, right?
Yeah, Randy Johnson was pitching until he was 43. Greg Maddux was pitching until he was about 42.
Yeah, give him another 3 or 4 years. Let's see if he falls off a cliff.
Yeah, I also think because Kershaw's such a crafty pitcher and he's already adjusted to diminished stuff, I think it might not be this good, but I think he's going to still steady out at the end of his career.
I definitely think. Listen,
I think he'll hang around and be like a 4 or a 5.
And if he hangs around, if he hangs around long enough, he's getting at least 250 wins. I mean, I don't think he's hitting 300. I agree, but
I don't think.
Forget about 300. We're never seeing 300 again.
Go ahead, Brewster Brewforce.
I got to bring this name up because it goes perfectly into our conversation that we're having right now before we get to the A's. How about Madison Bumgarner? That news is interesting.
Assignment.
Talk about falling off a cliff.
Exactly. That's kind of what made me think about it. But, listen, he's falling off a cliff. But at the same time, this guy has a very proven track record, especially in the postseason. So for me, obviously he's getting DFA'd.
In the postseason.
Right. So the question becomes, which team's willing to gamble on him? And as a Mets fan, I cautiously am like, maybe watching Joey Lucchesi right now. Maybe we don't have to because he's pitching really well. But
for you, I mean, the Philadelphia Phillies would surely need to gamble, right, to keep your streak alive with them in the division, right? The Phillies would have to be at the top of the list, no?
Oh, I mean, you're right, Tom. You're right, but we don't want to see that because I could just see him, resurrecting himself with the Phillies somehow. But listen, that'll be really interesting.
I think that ballpark. I would not like
maybe
him
as a relief pitcher.
You'll see. I mean,
what's interesting on Bumgarner, because I think, what was it your point, Chris? I mean, in the postseason, he's been historic. I don't want to say he's almost like one of these guys, just a postseason player, kind of like in hockey with Claude Lemieux. Claude Lemieux was a great postseason player, but in the regular season, he had his moments. And But I mean, Josh Beckett would be another example. Josh Beckett was good, but I mean, the postseason he was another level. But I mean, his regular season career, I mean, it's good, but it's not like I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I mean,
he's 134 and 124 in his regular season career. That's not getting you into the Hall of Fame.
And an ERA, thanks to the crack staff for giving this to us, 3.47, which isn't terrible. But I mean, he's got 4 seasons of 200 strikeouts or more. Never finished more than 4th in the Cy Young, 4-time All-Star. Yeah, I mean,
he's a pitcher who had a really, really good prime, but he just like we said, falling off a cliff. Madison Bumgarner has dropped a million feet.
Yeah, if I look at his career,
his postseason ERA, I think, is the best ever, or is among he's in the top 3 or 4. They were showing it today.
8-3, 2.11 ERA, which is amazing in 102 innings, 16 starts. So his body of work in the postseason speaks for itself. But since he's left the Giants, I mean, you look at his numbers and they're just
Arizona's been bad.
5.23 ERA.
I find it crazy that a team like Arizona, not a high payroll team, they were just willing to eat that $34 million. He was owed a lot of money. That's not.
No. A guy who was 31 when you got him, 30, and then you look at his body of work. A guy over 30, give him a big deal, and you look at the numbers here. I mean, they're not even pedestrian. I mean, this is going to be a bad contract. And even with the Giants, you look at the last couple of years there, and the body of work was okay. I mean, but here nor there. But I want to get to, because I do want to get to Brad on the NBA, because I actually do want to talk the Knicks, and I kind of want to talk a little bit about the playoffs and recap that. But I want to talk about this whole situation here we kind of spoke about, and Rob Maraska certainly was talking about it on social media, and that's the news about the Oakland A's here, and another team goes to Las Vegas, and this is the first team here to move to another city in quite a long time. I believe it's what the Expos moved to Washington back in 2004 officially, and it's not going to happen yet. So, Rob Maraska, I mean, before I get to these guys' thoughts here, I mean, so what happens here now? The Oakland A's, they've got an agreement here with the state of Nevada and the city of Las Vegas. Obviously, governor there comes out, a newly elected governor says this is what's going to happen here, but that's not going to be built until 2027. So that on my clock, that leaves the Oakland A's with 3.5 years in Oakland. And their mayor there said that no more negotiations, obviously, understandably so, with their ballpark. So what does happen now with the Oakland A's? Is it a done deal that they're going to Las Vegas like everybody's saying? And just your impressions on this.
Well, they purchased some land on the strip or right off the strip. And the plan is to build a 34,000 seat stadium, which is, pretty small, 34,000. It better have a dome if they're playing in Vegas. It better have a dome. So we said it 2 weeks ago. Something has to be done. And the Oakland A's fans were kind of, fighting with me. And I don't blame them. Of course, you don't want your team to move. But really, the Oakland Coliseum is a disaster. I mean, who really wants to go to that stadium? Even in the broadcast booth, what they had the possum, and the Mets broadcasting team had to leave and go into another studio because it smelled so bad. And, Susan Waldman actually was making fun of them today. But it has to be done. It's a shame because, like we said, Oakland was a great franchise, and Oakland's been in the postseason,
I know they had a lot of success. I mean, it's a franchise that won a World Series in 1989, 3 straight World Series. As early as in the 90s, they had a bunch of playoff runs, and up to about 4 or 5 years ago, still in the postseason.
Yeah, and it's all about the Bucks and filling the stadium, and that they needed a new stadium, and it wasn't happening in Oakland, so it looks like they're going to be in Vegas. What's going to happen within the next couple of years? I don't know. Are they going to stay? What the lease is up in the Coliseum, I think.
After next season.
Yeah, after this season, right? So I don't know what they're going to do. Where are they going to play? Are they going to have to sign a 2-year lease? Who knows?
But they might sign an extension because we're I mean, Do they become the San Francisco A's for a couple of years?
I was gonna say the
And-
same thing.
that creates a whole hell. That creates hell.
What
to
about-
schedule that.
Yeah.
What about them moving to Vegas to the minor league team?
Yeah,
That's
that would be
That's
there.
my thought.
Period, right?
Hey, that could happen. They are talking about that, but you know what? I think it's going to be a good move, and now you have the Raiders, and you're going to have the A's in Vegas. It was a matter of time. Once they opened up Vegas for professional sports teams, you knew someone was going there. So they have to. Oakland cannot stay in Oakland. Even, Eric Chavez said it's time for them to go. Okay.
Yeah, that ballpark. When we had the Pinstripe Chronicles guys, when they used to join us on the Friday night shows, we were a really packed house. And I remember, I think it was Rob Barros at the time, and Rob had talked about going down there and being in that ballpark. And I mean, it looks like it was a dive 20 years ago, and he was there, and it was like, it's unfortunate. I hate to say it. I think I might have even said it. Then it's like what Olympic Stadium was to the Expos. It's just it's not a Major League Baseball park. Listen, the Raiders were there for the NFL, and it wasn't an NFL stadium. So how can this place be a Major League Baseball stadium? And unfortunately, the government there, whether it's in California or the city of Oakland, and didn't really, I guess, want to pay for these things. And listen, governments have to make decisions. I totally get it. And, when you're in that position, it's a different thing. But, I mean, they can't play there. I think it's pretty obvious to the parent. They can't go there. I mean, anybody have a different thought on that or anything else here? I mean, because I think at the end of the day, they can't play there much longer.
Not really. I think this is gonna be great revenue, more revenue for the city of Las Vegas. I saw where that proposed land was. So it is right off the strip. It's on the corner of Dean Martin and Tropicana, which is the very, very end of the strip. If you've ever been to Las Vegas, I've been there a couple times, so I kind of have a small feel for the area. I don't think it's too far from where Allegiant Stadium is, where the Raiders play, and I think it's just gonna be. I think it's gonna be great. I think, like I said in our chat, you're gonna see sellouts for the first couple of years. You're gonna see a rejuvenated team, and I think that the owner will finally maybe funnel some money into the team.
They've never spent, even when they won.
No, they've never
really spent. Never.
And that's why Moneyball was so famous for the way Billy Beane did his thing, and they were such a great team.
For a long time, I want to say for about 20 years, they were in the postseason at least 10 times. They had a great run.
It really is a shame, but I mean, if you think about the A's as a franchise, I mean, this is their fourth relocation.
It's unbelievable.
They started in Philadelphia over 100+ years ago. They moved to Kansas City, and then teams started migrating out west. They went to Oakland, and they've pretty much been at the Coliseum for a million years. I mean, that place is just awful now, and
place, like I said,
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that things were not able to work out between the California state government, the Oakland City Council, the government in Oakland. It's unfortunate that it didn't work out, but you think about it, they had 3 professional sports teams, and now they have none, right?
Yeah, Warriors, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously the Raiders.
Okay,
and
you still have the Warriors. You still technically have the Warriors because all they did was move across the bay to San Francisco.
And they lost the Raiders twice.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
The Raiders went to Los Angeles before coming back to Oakland, and now they're gone in Vegas, and they're not coming back. It's over now.
I don't know if I count the Warriors still in Oakland.
Unfortunately, Oakland just can't hold professional sports. It's just not a city for pro.
Well, you know what killed the A's too is when they built that extra seating for the football for the Oakland Raiders to get them to come back, and that's what killed the Coliseum.
Yeah, but
it wasn't a
bad.
It was a nice stadium for a while before they did that.
If you I think Justin, you might have just remembered when the Yankees played the A's in 2001. I remember watching the 2001 Division Series.
Yep.
That ballpark still looked old, though. It looked old in 20 years ago.
It It's one of those ballparks that was old 25.
I mean, Shea looked like the Taj Mahal compared to the Alameda Coliseum. I mean,
Listen,
And you know what it is too? A
Shea
lot of
Stadium,
these cities.
Shea Stadium is one of the 7 wonders of the world
I
compared to
love
the Oakland
Shea.
Coliseum.
yeah, but Shea wasn't modern. My point was that Shea looked great compared to the Alameda Coliseum. I mean, my point was, 20 years ago when the Yankees played there in the playoffs, that was still like an outdated park. Now imagine it's like.
But you know what? It's coming down to a lot of these cities don't want to have their taxpayers pay to get these stadiums built, right? So when you build up, when you put a vote out, most of these people don't go to the game, so they don't care, right? So they're going to be like, no, I don't want to get my taxes raised so I can build a stadium. Like it doesn't matter to me. I mean, what is it going to go up? A quarter or whatever it is.
Right.
It's not a big deal, but I can understand why people don't want to do that. Right, because that's what happened here in Long Island with Nassau County.
I
Right?
know. It was a whole the Islanders. Oh my God! We certainly saw what happened there, and it happens in a number of different places.
The one with Nassau County, before that, what's his name? Wong was willing to build the arena with his own money.
Well, that
and
lighthouse
they turned
play,
that down.
remember that? That was the lighthouse. It was a great
Right.
deal, and the stupid government and the whole
Thank
stupid
you.
thing,
And they said no. And then they had their plan, and they said, okay, we'll do this plan, but Nassau County is going to have to kick in whatever.
And then they had the goofy referenda.
Right, and then they had to vote on it, and obviously it got shut down.
Why were they shooting it down if Wong was willing to pay with it out of his own pocket and not taxpayer
Think about
money?
it. Just think about it.
Because it's corruption. Listen, take it from me. It's all corruption.
You know that.
In local
Tom knows that too well,
Democrat, it's
probably.
corruption. But I got a couple comments here first because I want to transition first. Let me go here to Joseph Bosham. Do you all think it would be different if the A's had a playoff type team? I agree. The Oakland. I disagree,
No,
Joey.
because we just said it.
Exactly. In 20 years, okay, from 2000 to 2020, the Oakland Athletics, you know how many times they made the postseason? The crack staff officially looked up 11 times.
Yeah,
11 times.
And wasn't you might have the exact years up too. Wasn't like the most recent like 2019?
2020.
2020.
There you go. They were only in the
2020.
playoffs as of a couple of years ago.
Yep. They were in the playoffs 11 times in 20 years. So they've won. This is a team that's had a lot of success of late. They won 97 games back-to-back years, 2018 to 19. I mean, they won 90-plus games year after year, and doesn't matter. I mean, and the attendance was never there, really.
You can make the case in every sport that sport is better when certain teams are good. And I feel that way about the Oakland A's and the Cincinnati Reds too. When those teams are good, baseball's better because those are legendary franchises. The Oakland A's have a massive history. The Reds have a massive history. And right now, the
Reds are the original team of baseball. Yeah, the Reds.
Well, exactly. But you think about all the glory they had in the 70s, how good they were in the 80s and 90s.
And the city of Oakland is a disaster too. You have to look at that. It's a disaster area. It's not safe, and you know what? It's time.
Well, I was looking at tickets to one of these games. I mean, they were dirt cheap. I mean, so if anybody wants to take a trip, and you could get plenty of tickets there at the Coliseum. But let me go to Joey Bostrom's one more comment before I get to a comment from somebody, Brad Weiss, that is waiting to hear from you. So that'll be a segue for us. I asked because if the Expos won the World Series, that team would still be in Montreal. But you know what? I hear that a lot, but we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we won't know. The team could have won the World Series, let's say, and they still could have had the same problem 3 or 4 years later. They were in a ballpark also that wasn't really good. And it was a ballpark that had problems because of the location, similar to Oakland, and all of the problems because of just the weather conditions, the dome itself. I mean, you can go down there. I mean, what was the line that Marty Noble used to say, the old Mets writer, that it was basically Olympic Stadium was like the size of an ashtray or something like that? It was like really I guess he was thinking about for if you were back in the day a cigarette smoker and you had an ashtray, and that's kind of what Olympic Stadium was. And I guess Alameda Coliseum, whatever they call it now at this point, it's probably the same thing times 10. But, we got all that out of the way, but Brad Weiss, I think you might know who this individual is because he's been waiting. In fact, he's been messaging people. He's been wanting to know left and right. when are we going to do it? Because the breaking update is James Dolan is moving the Knicks to Vegas because actually out there, Vegas doesn't have an NBA team. That's the one sport that they don't have at the moment. He said the team needs to move as far away from the brute force as possible. But the New York Knicks did win tonight, and they are up 2-1 here in this Eastern Conference first-round series against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And as we pointed out at the top of the show, the New York Knicks were the first team in the NBA this year to hold a team under 80 points regular season or playoffs. The Knicks are looking good. I was even hearing Julius Randle today before the game saying how happy he was about being on the team this year and how good he feels. And Jalen Brunson's been unbelievable, and he was clutch in game one, and everybody's waiting for it, especially for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, the Brute Force. So you know what time it is. It is Dolan time. It's playoff edition, and you got to be a happy man these days. And tell us how you feel and where we're going here with this New York Knicks after tonight's huge win.
That is right. That is right. So first of all, John Gonzalez, welcome. Welcome. You finally awoken. So what's going on, John? You're here just in time. All right, because you're here for Dolan time. And what I'm going to start it with, because you want to talk about this nonsense about the Knicks moving to Vegas, all right, let me give you the chant. Go, New York, go, New York, go. Go, New York, go, New York, go. All right?
Where's the hat, man? Where's the hat with it?
What?
Where's the hat? The hat would have been.
No hat. All right, no hat. My hair. I just got a haircut from Sal the Barber, right? No messing with it.
I think liked one of my posts recently. I think maybe that was the clue.
That's right. So I'm going to say it again. New York, stand up. All right, it's time to stand up. It's time to be happy as New York Knicks fans because, listen, the New York Knicks came out in this series and got the first win. Then they got absolutely punched in the mouth where the Cavaliers were hitting every shot from everywhere in the second game. And then you know what happened in the third game, Tom Bryce? I hate to say it. The New York Knicks fans got to the Cavaliers. Because they
the Knicks, that fans, I was catching some of the game we're watching. That fan
they were not ready for the bright lights of Madison Square Garden. Okay, they were not ready to come into that atmosphere, that environment. Okay, their palms were sweaty, their backside was tight.
I mean, you're saying they needed the Max Scherzer rosin, right?
They needed something because they couldn't hit nothing. I mean, I was listening to Stephen A. Smith at halftime, and he put it correctly. They looked like construction workers with how many bricks they were building, right? With all the bricks that they were throwing up at the backboard. I mean, they couldn't hit a shot. The only guy that gave them some hope in the second half was Karis LeVert, and he couldn't do enough to save them. Donovan Mitchell, even though he played okay, didn't really have his best game. And the New York Knicks didn't have the best game either, but they defended, as you mentioned, 79 points, Tom Bryce. That's very good. I don't care what team you're playing. Especially
a lot of those points came late in that third quarter. They had, I think, 24
Yeah, so listen, the Knicks did a solid job defensively. Offensively, you mentioned Julius Randle. He was terrible. He was horrible. Okay, but the story of the game was the guy who had to come alive. He had no choice but to wake up at some point. He was the guy who was the top guy that every Knicks fan was saying, what the heck is he doing? When is he going to wake up? Why is he not doing this? And that was R.J. Barrett, and he showed up today. He finally showed up. He shot the ball well. He defended. He was active. He was in the passing lanes. He was getting to the rim. R.J. Barrett was the reason why the New York Knicks won tonight because he finally showed up to this series. So.
And the Brute Force Brad Weiss here.
All right, listen, I'm here. All right, well, with that, all right, just like the Knicks, I'm here. I ain't leaving. All right. So listen, R.J. Barrett was the reason why we won this game. He was huge in every aspect of the game, and I think that that lift. Obviously, Quentin Grimes going out in the first half, was a tough loss for the team. But Josh Hart did a great job defending Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, like I said, Randle didn't play great, but you still get Brunson going out there and doing his thing, right? You still go out there quickly, has a few nice moments. Toppin comes in, gives you good minutes. So the Knicks did their job. It wasn't the best offensive game, but if you look at the two teams, Tom, the Cavaliers and the Knicks, they're not really offensive teams. They're defensive-minded teams. And I think that you shouldn't be surprised to see scores like
the second half played much better defensively. We would speak about that here in the show. The Knicks, the reason they had a better second half was their defense, especially Josh Hart. After the Hart trade, defensively, they played much better, this team.
Yeah, so I think, game two was a little bit of a surprise because both teams, these games, at least I expected them to be like a 100 to 90 or 90 to 80. You know, so that
game one was like that pretty much, and game two was 107-90, but it was all window dressing in the second half, especially that fourth quarter of scoring.
So listen, the New York Knicks are doing their thing. The New York Knicks fans definitely showed up, including our buddy Steve Stapperstein, as you mentioned. Steve,
I was going to say, did he take your seat tonight? I was wondering. I actually tagged you on his Facebook and Instagram pages, and he actually liked the comment. So I mean,
well, what I will say, Steve, is that those are very nice seats. So
you know, it's funny. Steve, we had a conversation about this like 2 weeks ago. Chris will appreciate this. I'm on Coney Island Avenue off Kings Highway, and we were talking. I said to him, "Do you want to go to the Knicks when they go to the playoffs?" He goes, "Nah, I got no money. I can't go." And then here we are. He's at the game, so somebody must have comped him. It had to be a comp.
Something. I mean, I actually had two of my players from Level Up who were actually sitting courtside as well. So I will say I knew plenty of people sitting at the game. But with that being said, the New York Knicks did their job. They got the win. They're leading the series 2-1. And, you know, going into game 4 back at the Garden again. And listen, when it comes to New York, by the way, all right, New York teams, you know, the Knicks, the Rangers, the Islanders win today. I mean, a lot of good things going on with New York, especially in the Garden. You got the Rangers and the Knicks dominating right now. So, you know, and I know Justin doesn't want to hear that. All right, but what I will say that, you know, things at the Garden, when it comes to Dolan time, we're not talking about Dolan. And that's the best thing when the New York Knicks are doing well and we don't have to talk about him. All right. So in the end, Knicks are doing their job. I'm excited to see them leading the series. And like I said, I predicted them to win the series, Tom Bryce, and I still think they will. I think game 2, Cavaliers, everything went right. I think the 1 and 3 you see when the Knicks really defend, they're going to beat the Cavaliers more because, 1, they have more depth on the bench. 2, right, as long as you slow down Mitchell, you really try to put pressure on those young guys. And in the Garden today, boy, did they fold under any pressure.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and Joseph Bostrom here would like to comment. Also, John Gunn's also a few comments here, and Anthony Finkel is messaging me directly saying he's enjoying this, so that's always nice. The Garden felt like the 90s tonight, and tomorrow for Game 3, Rangers and Devils should be the same. The only team without it, well, he meant to say the Devils, but is the Nets. But, yeah, I mean, the crowd was loud. I will say the crowd was loud tonight. I mean, watching it, you seeing all those former Knicks players. I mean, Brad, when was the last time I saw that many former Knicks of note in the Garden? I mean, I can't remember the last time, really.
Well, it's been a while. You know why it's been a while? Because we haven't won anything.
Well, you know, it's been so long that Allen Houston had, like, white hair. Latrell Sprewell looked like he packed some pounds. I mean, it looked like definitely the last time I think I might have saw these guys at the Garden of Note, maybe was the last time they were on the court together, some of these guys. They were sitting in Starks and all these other guys here. It was like, where were these players all these years? You haven't seen anybody. It was a big fight atmosphere at the Garden.
Oh, yeah. But again, you know, it's an old cliche, but everybody says it. When you win, they show up. And that's exactly what happened. You know, when you finally win, I mean, I know we had a taste of it a few seasons ago, but obviously the Hawks just, bum rushed.
I mean, the crowd was loud those 2 games here, the first 2 games.
Yeah, but, got to remember that was basically, COVID was, there. And, the crowds weren't as big, and, some people weren't going because of COVID. So it was different. This game was different. It was louder, obviously people more into it. And I think that the fans also know that the Knicks are a better team than they were back when they played the Hawks with Brunson. So, listen, again, it's exciting time. As some people would say, I say New York stand up. Other people say orange and blue skies. Other people say other things. Right now, it's a happy time to be a New York Knicks fan. And I'm certainly excited to see what they could do the rest of the series.
Well, they always say Game 3 is the swing game, and this was a 1-1 series, and the swing game went to the Knicks. So certainly you got to be feeling really good right now. 2-1 at home. Sunday night is going to be even, I think, more rocking. And yeah, Joey is right in a way. You got the Knicks, the Rangers, the Knicks again, and the Rangers, and it hasn't been too often. You've seen this. We'll see. And John Gonzalez also says R.J. Barrett did show up, just like the hotel security showed up at the Brutes room in Miami, looking for the stolen towels.
Every week with something, and now it's towels. It used to be the Herrick's coats. Now it's towel. I mean, really, John Gonzalez?
Actually, I had that next.
Oh, really? I mean, he had to bring it up. I mean, Listen, John, first of all, you missed the beginning of the show. We got some sources on you, John, and I confirmed them. So you might want to tune back into the beginning of the show. But what I will say, all right, is that the Cavaliers definitely struggled like Herrick's shooting the ball today. So in that sense, he's right. With the towels, please. I've already confirmed all of it. Ain't nobody was stealing towels, not me. All right, but the New York Knicks were certainly stealing the souls of the Cleveland Cavaliers today. That's for sure.
Well, we have Skulls, obviously, our wrestler from the
That's right.
EWF is the Soul Hunter. Yeah, he's the Soul Hunter. The Knicks were hunting souls. But let me ask you this question before I move on, and maybe I'll let Justin riff for a minute or two before we move on here. Maybe I'll get a quick thought on the NFL draft and Rodgers. I think I should do that at least because obviously the draft is next week. But, I mean, anything else of note in the playoffs that's kind of caught your attention here in some of these series? I mean, obviously, Lakers certainly up to a strong start. Obviously, Bucks and Heat was 1-1, and anything else here? Suns and Clippers, I caught a little bit last night. Warriors came back and made that a series. I mean, any other thoughts here on these series so far?
Yeah, well, I'm going to leave the thoughts of the Sixers and the Nets to Justin. I don't even want to talk about it. But listen, I will say that one of the more entertaining series that have really caught my eye, and I think a lot of people's eyes, has obviously been the Warriors against the Kings.
Yeah.
That series has been incredible. I mean, the Kings, first of all, the Sacramento Kings. Nobody thought Sacramento was going to be this good. And the fact that they've come into a series against the defending champs, who, by the way, we all know haven't had the best season, have struggled, have had injuries with Wiggins, and he comes back in the playoffs. But, I mean, this is impressive what the Kings are doing. I mean, the fact that they won both games at home, it's a fan base, by the way, speaking of loud, I mean, they were extremely loud. I mean, they haven't seen their team in the playoffs in years.
17 years, first playoff win, by the way. 17
Incredible.
years.
So, listen, they have a really good team. Obviously, the controversy with Draymond Green getting suspended for Game 3 for, his stomp. All right. But, ultimately, they did get the job done in Game 3. So props to the Warriors. They've been a great home team all year. But that series has just been exciting. There's something about it, like the young Kings against the former champs who won it last year. And
4 championships in 8 years, 5 final appearances.
And then you got Mike Brown, the coach of the year, by the way. He deserves it 100%, who was the assistant for Golden State for 6 or 7 seasons. Obviously having an impact on knowing what the Warriors do.
And he gets another crack at being a head coach. That's a story in itself, too, don't forget. Another crack at doing a coaching job.
That series has a lot of interesting features to it when it comes to players, coaches. I mean, that's the one series I've really been locked into besides, obviously, the Knicks and Cavaliers.
I think Suns and Clippers, though, has been a little bit better than that series, actually. I would say.
Yeah, I would give you that. I mean, the first 2 games in Phoenix were good. Last night was a great game that, Phoenix pulled out.
40-point games, by the way, last night. Dueling 40-point games.
But that series has kind of lost a little interest for me because of the current fact that Kawhi Leonard will not play in Game 4. That is a big issue with the fact that they already don't have Paul George, and they're down 2-1. So this is
a problem. That called Kawhi the worst superstar ever? Did you catch that comment today, that he was the worst superstar?
I wouldn't go that far, but he definitely is the worst at showing up to work when it comes to superstars. Obviously, Justin could talk about Kyrie Irving. We all know about that. But listen, Kawhi Leonard, he's on that list for sure. He just don't show up, and he finds ways not to show up. So, they're definitely in trouble. I will give credit. Listen, I hate doing this because I don't like giving any compliments to James Cronin, who, by the way, is a very happy man today because both his Islanders and your Islanders, as well as his Atlanta Hawks, got a win tonight. Trae Young leads them to a win. Props to them. That series has gotten a little more interesting now that the Hawks got a game. So, those are interesting series. Memphis beating Los Angeles without Morant was also quite an interesting story. I look forward to seeing Game 3 of that game. So there's a lot, but there's one series again. And I failed to mention Miami, obviously, who won Game 1 when Giannis came out. And then, obviously, Giannis misses Game 2, and they absolutely destroy them. So I'm curious to see how that series goes in Miami. But the one series, my God, that has absolutely no interest because, damn, it's just – I know the Nets gave it a fight in Game 3, but it's just not a fight. And that's the Nets and Sixers. I feel bad. The Nets have had, a solid season after they had all the debacle and all the breakdown and everything. But they are just I hate to put up Finkel's comment, Tom. I mean, the brooms are definitely going to
put it up because you asked me to. I'm going to put it up. I'm going to pull it up here in a second.
I know Embiid is not playing Game 4, which is probably, so some Nets fans hope to win that game, but I just don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to be done in Game 4. But let's hear from Justin. It's Justin's chance to shine now.
I'm gonna be honest with the season being over. I kind of wish Embiid was playing in this game. I think he's a little, for running away from this game. Oh, my knee is sore. Yeah, your knee is sore because you kicked Nick Claxton in the balls. That's why. You're a dirty player. He should have been suspended. They suspended Green for one game for the stomp on Domantas Sabonis, and rightly so. That was dirty. That shouldn't have happened. But no discipline for Embiid. He didn't even get tossed from the game for that. I mean, where was the ejection there? And I can't believe I'm defending James Harden, but that was a soft ejection, if you ask me. That was a soft flagrant too. They ejected the wrong Sixer. And B should have been tossed earlier in the game for that kick of Claxton. And now, oh, my knee hurts. I can't play Game 4. No, I want you out there for Game 4. The season's over. We'll worry about next year. Why don't somebody go clock him in the face? Just end Joel Embiid. Like, I'm so sick and tired of Joel Embiid. It's not even funny. And you know what? Listen, the series is the series. The Sixers are 10 times better than the Nets, and the result is what we expected. The Nets played well in Game 3. They couldn't quite close the deal, and that basically sealed their fate. I still think they'll get a token win. They'll win tomorrow. And then Philly ends it in Game 5. Still probably without Joel Embiid because he probably will miss a few games. But listen, it's been a weird year for the Nets. Obviously, you come into the season with championship aspirations, and then you have the uncertainty with Kevin Durant asking for the trade in the summer. And then the whole thing with Kyrie Irving. And then Kyrie Irving gets traded. So then Durant ends up getting traded. You bring back some really, really good players who I think are going to be beneficial to the future of the Nets with Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. You bring back Spencer Dinwiddie. So, I mean, the roster is going to be good. And like I've said in the past, unlike the whole end of the Garnett and Pierce situation,
that was the abyss.
The Nets are left with some solid pieces for the future, especially in a budding star in Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, I think they could be competitive.
In reality, they're just overmatched in the series. It's just not going to happen.
All right, here, a couple of comments here before we move on here. John Gonzalez would like to say Knicks will move on and so will the Rangers. I had the Rangers in 6. Well, we'll have to see. We'll see if Devils can maybe bounce back a little bit.
John, that might be too many games at this point for the Rangers.
No, we'll see. Listen, you never know.
Hey, the way the Devils are playing, that's.
Hey, I was giving a pep talk to Neil Villapiano today. We were speaking off the air, and I was telling him, listen, you never know. Listen, Rangers were up 2-0 last year, and the Lightning came back and got him. So you never know. Listen, he was appreciating the pep talk. Of course, Neil is with the Devil's State of Mind on sportnarium.com/players. Sabonis is a beast, absolutely. If there's any team that deserves this, it's Sacramento. Obviously, 17 years, really, with anything. That's a long drought, to say the least. Suns will win that series if Kawhi doesn't play. Well, it's 2-1 Phoenix now, and I think they can still win it regardless. I think that's going to go. But I think if Kawhi plays, it goes the distance. If Kawhi,
you know what I've noticed about the NBA?
What?
There are more injuries in the postseason than any other sport.
Because these guys, they have load management. That's why. There's load management. In the NFL, right, everybody plays. It's week to week. In the NHL, everybody's got an upper body injury. They play. Baseball,
think about it. And if you think about some of the injuries across the league, I know Patrice Bergeron really has not played much, if at all, in the series for
Boston. Didn't need him tonight.
And was it Svechnikov? No, it was Teravainen.
Teravainen didn't
broke
play.
His hand for Carolina, and I think is out for the rest of the series.
Yep.
But other than that, you see guys across the league, they're banged up. They're in there. And these NBA guys, they're so soft. Honestly, I'm sick and tired of the NBA. I'm honestly sick and tired of the NBA.
Well, listen, you can always join us. We cover D3 basketball on Sportzwire. We're the home of it. We cover these guys.
I definitely find college basketball much more entertaining than I do the NBA. The NBA product has gotten so bad. it's
Yeah,
tough
I
to
mean,
watch.
look, it's I still like.
I watch the Nets. I like to watch the Lakers.
Yeah. There's certain
You're
teams,
not going to find me watching many
it's
more
listen.
teams.
I get it. I mean, obviously, with us, Brad and I mean, we watch basketball, but a different type of basketball. But I totally get it here. Justin in rare form, I totally, all great stuff here. So I'm gonna let the guys, if they want to talk about the Jets and the draft and the closing thoughts. I know we're on the interest of time here, so I'm gonna let everybody go to closing thoughts.
Joey says
here.
I'm in rare form. I haven't even spoken on the Devils yet. That's a
You
whole
could-
nother episode.
I'll give you that on the closing thoughts if you want. I mean, Randy was basically like, Randy was like, do we talk about the Devils? I'm like, I don't know what to say because we've got Devils fans on the station. I mean, I don't know. At least Billy McInerney.
I wish I didn't have to. I wish I didn't work so late. I would have maybe tried to slide in at the end of Randy's thing to talk about it, but I didn't get home.
Yeah, Randy unfortunately had some throat issues, so he had to cut it short a little bit. But that stuff is be there as it may. But Rob Moroska, I'm going with you first, obviously with closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say, and looking forward to the winner for next week. And John Gonzalez has a comment for the Brew Force at the end, which I'll save. But anything else you want to say, Rob Moroska, floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Just people check me out on Twitter and on Facebook for the contest this week, and I'll announce the winner on next week's show, definitely. So they have time. I want to get it out there again to some California Angel fans and stuff. Give them a chance to get in on it because it is both Ohtani and Babe Ruth. So that's what I'm going to do. Lucchese pitched a great game.
Yeah, what a Jeff game's already in the eighth inning.
Performance.
All right, he pitched 7 excellent innings, and you can't ask for anything. Anything
starting
more.
like almost 2 years, and I mean, just to throw a start like that in almost 2 years.
By the way, who had Joey Lucchese be the first starter to throw a pitch of the 7th inning on their Mets bingo card for 2023?
Nobody. And one last thing. Maybe next week we could get into it. I want to talk about some of these new rules they're testing out in the minor leagues, especially the designated runner, but we don't have enough time.
Yeah, I definitely think as we go on later in the weeks and months, obviously these other sports are still going on. Obviously, we'll see what happens with the NHL and the other sports, but obviously once we get into certainly, June and certainly those months, it's going to be all baseball. So, I mean, it's going to be just all baseball at that point. So I'm sure we'll get into all of that here, and everybody can follow you at R. Moroska. We'll definitely we'll try our best to work in these different things, but great stuff there. And we'll see you about next week with those winners. And Chris, I want to give you the floor. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? I appreciate that you sent the Liftoff Jets. I got it before we went on the air. We'll definitely play it on the weekend. I know I'm live a couple of times, actually. Sunday, I'm live with the Wrestling Championship Entertainment Boys, and I'm also live with Jinnah, pro wrestling star from England, so we'll work it in between them. So I want to give you any closing thoughts, anything you want to share on the draft, anything that we should know about a Liftoff Jets, and floor is yours and fire away.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Guys, great show as always. Had a great time. Yeah, the draft is coming up this week. We keep hearing about the Rodgers trade. When is it going to happen? Boomer Esiason said it's going to happen before the draft. We'll see. We were talking about when it's going to happen on our episode a little bit, and Sharman thinks on draft night, which kind of makes sense. Like maybe we'll see. Like if there's a player that Green Bay wants, and maybe they'll jump ahead or something. But we'll see. It's interesting. I'm just tired of hearing about it. I just want it to happen so we can move on. But I'm looking forward to the draft. It's interesting. Looks like number 1's going to go to Bryce Young, but number 2 is where I think the draft starts with the Texans. So we'll see how that goes. But we'll have a Liftoff Jets after the draft is completed. We'll do an episode recapping the Jets picks and stuff like that. So it won't be this week. It'll probably be, after.
Sure. No problem. Really good. I know it's a short week with the NFL, and obviously everybody's watching with the draft. So that's totally.
So look out for that. And, we'll be talking, Talking Rivals on Monday. And
I enjoyed the show you did with Randy. I really enjoyed that show. I used that. I still have it in the rotation. That was a good show you and Randy did.
I had a good time. It was a good, quick episode. Like it was a good.
That's why I like his shows, because they're like 30, 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like I could go sit there and just like if I'm prepping for something, I could hear what he has to say and you. And that's why I always kind of liked his shows. Just kind of comes in and out.
I had to do a little extra homework because
I
had
noticed
to
that.
brush
Yeah,
up
I
on my-
noticed you were talking about that. You're talking about your Islander fandom. I thought that was so interesting, kind of like when the days of no cable, and you were talking about just the different things around the league, and I really enjoyed that stuff.
Yeah, it was fun. I appreciated him even asking me, so it was cool.
Yeah, he got some good
Swarovski's not
guests
a
on.
bad pick. The only thing is, a lot of the scouts are saying that he'll be better as a guard than a tackle. Almost like AVT is for us, like he's going to be a great guard, but not a great tackle. So I don't know if he's going to be the pick for us, but we'll see.
All right,
It
great
should be a
stuff.
tackle though at 13.
Well, we're going to talk
Okay.
about it, I know, next Friday, and just want to tell you guys, I got a couple of friends at Amazon asked me if I had plans after work. They were going out to party. I said I had plans. My plans, hang out. Thank you guys, great stuff. I appreciate that. Long as you're
Appreciate
doing good, good stuff. Appreciate the kind words. They're over at the Amazon Fulfillment Center. They're all the way out there in the west shore of Staten Island, the western shores of Staten Island. There, sort of where I think they have Prawls Island was over there. If you looked on the old Atlas maps, it was like Prawls Island and it was the Bird Sanctuary, all those kind of interesting places there. Kind of the no man's land, is famously Mr. Ozzy Osbourne sang on one of his albums there, most recent ones. But here nor there, Justin, I want to give you the floor. Anything else you want to riff on with the draft, baseball banner, anything else on your mind? Good stuff there with you. And I appreciate you having back on the show with us once again. And anything else on your mind, anything else you want to plug? And the floor is yours.
But thank you, Tom. By the way, Chris, you mentioned the name Boomer Esiason. I don't want to hear that name for the next 2 weeks. And I think you know why.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
All right, let's cut to the chase here. These first 2 games have absolutely been a disaster. I mean, you couldn't have drawn up any worse first 2 games against the New York Rangers than the Devils did, and it all falls on Lindy Ruff, in my opinion. Yeah, the Devils are inexperienced, and the Rangers have a much more experienced group, a better goaltender. I would say a better defensive core. But what got you there for 52 wins? What got you there over the course of 82 games? All of a sudden, he changes things up. And I can't for the life of me understand how Miles Wood continues to get into the lineup. I mean, what dirt does he have on Lindy Ruff that continues to allow him in the lineup and take stupid penalty after stupid penalty? Oh, and by the way, let's scratch in game 2. Let's scratch our best penalty killer, Jonas Siegenthaler, for Brendan Smith, who is bleep for brains and takes 2 stupid penalties. Oh, by the way, the Rangers scored twice on the power play. I can't with Lindy Ruff. I can't with this coaching staff. I don't think they're putting the players in the best position to win. Are they at a bit of a disadvantage on the ice against the Rangers? Yeah, for sure. I mean, that top line with Panarin, Kane, Tarasenko, Kreider, those top guys are elite, right? There's a reason why it's Stanley Cup or bust if you're the New York Rangers. It really is. And I understand the Devils are in the first year of hopefully a very long run. And I do think this core can win a Stanley Cup within the next couple of years. But right now, they're a team that's overwhelmed. And said it right. I believe the average age of the Devils is like 26. I was
going to say like 26 and a half, right? Something like that.
The last team to be that young and win the Stanley Cup, I believe, was the 14 Kings, if I'm not mistaken. It's so rare. It's so hard to do. It takes a couple of failures. They're going to have to, they're going to have to take their lumps. They're going to have to get knocked out to kind of really get it. It's almost like the Avalanche over the last couple of years. How many times have they made the playoffs disappointed? They've taken their lumps to the postseason. Last year, they ended up winning the Stanley Cup.
And they didn't go far in the playoffs either, those Avalanche teams. Second round at best, those 3 or 4 years.
You know what? And if is that what's going to happen to the Devils over the next couple of years? Maybe. I mean, the Metro is going to be loaded. I mean, the Rangers are not going anywhere. The Canes are a tremendous team. The Islanders, I know they have some veterans, but they're a good hockey team, and they made
Competitive,
competitive. They made the playoffs for a reason. I think
Or
Lou
that full
Lamoriello,
season with Barzell should be
and
okay.
I think Lou Lamoriello will continue to keep them competitive. By the way, I wish I had Lou Lamoriello right now because if I'm Lou Lamoriello, I'm yanking Lindy Ruff out of that series, and I'm coming down.
Well, I knew that was coming because I think if the Devils do get a quick exit here, I think Lindy Ruff is going to be out the door.
I think he will be, and he should be. And I'm not usually a
yeah. Neil, when I was speaking with Neil did not mince words when we was speaking off the air about Lindy Ruff.
I'm sure he used some words that are not family related that I cannot use.
Yes,
here,
he did.
Not use here. But listen, the Devils were one of the best teams in hockey towards the end of the 2000 season, and Lou Lamoriello fired Robbie Ftorek, hired Larry Robinson. They go on to win the Stanley Cup. We need some of that fire right now from Tom Fitzgerald. Because, and I'm not saying fire guy during the playoffs, but they're going to have to make a coaching change. Whether it's just promoting Andrew Brunette, who was tremendous for the Panthers last year, taking over after Quenneville had to step down. But something has to change. And I lost my you-know-what when I saw today's practice lines. Because if he's going to run those lines tomorrow, expect a 6-0 Rangers win. Hey, just book it, because it's like he's got a dartboard and he's just throwing darts. Okay, that's my line combo. That's line 2. That I can't comprehend.
Yeah,
it.
I didn't get it because the Devils are 3-0-1 against the Rangers this season.
The team just ends up looking lost on the ice because they don't have any chemistry. You had Tatar, Hischier, and Mercer all year long be one of the best top lines in hockey. And now he decides to break them up. You got Jesper Bratt basically out there doing cardio. It'd be nice if he woke up. I would appreciate that. I kind of want him on the third line tomorrow. I want him bumped down to the third line. So, listen, I am beyond frustrated with the Devils. It's not just I'm frustrated from the playoffs. It's not that I'm frustrated that we're losing 2-0 in the playoffs. It's that we're losing 2-0 to the New York Rangers.
And the way the team is playing, I think the way that
there are very few things I can't stand more than the Rangers. Losing to the Rangers is just not acceptable, and this is going to sting more than a regular first round loss. Like if we lost to like the Hurricanes or something. Yeah, it sucks, but all right, that's fine. You know what? I'll get over it. We had a great year.
And I know as Islander fans, we would say the same thing. Losing to the Rangers, we would say the same exact thing.
One thing Devils fans and Islanders fans can agree on is we hate the New York Rangers.
Well, because that's our sibling rivalry, pretty much in a way. It's from the left and right geographically in terms of just location. That's kind of. The way it is.
I mean, listen. I also hate the Flyers just as much, except the Flyers are irrelevant nowadays. They're just a bug. But listen,
finish up. I got a question.
I've basically blown out my voice there. So you guys know
I see that.
I am
JG and Ellie 91. I'm gonna go very quickly because Joseph Bostrom. I'm gonna let you ask this question to Chris before I get to Brad and closing thoughts, and he wants a quick thought on the Islanders here for you. So give him a quick thought because he's here and he's been loyally patient with us all night.
Oh, it was a much needed win. Obviously, being down 2-0. The one thing I was really impressed by was how loud that UBS Arena is, man. The first playoff game ever, right? In the new arena,
new building.
Fans brought it. Definitely loud. I don't know if it's as loud as the old barn and the Coliseum, but it was definitely a much needed win. 4 goals in the shortest time span in playoff history. Stanley Cup
it was like 4 goals in 2.5 minutes or something.
Yeah,
like that.
It was something crazy, but it was definitely a much needed win. Hopefully they could carry this over. And you could tell towards the end, they had like that little bit of a skirmish there. It was getting a little physical. That's the type of hockey you want to see the Islanders play. So hopefully that carries them into the next game. And, hopefully we can come back and win this series.
They played well enough to win game 2. I mean, listen, it was that fluke goal, that went in, that basically, I mean, there was nothing you could do. Then there was the other goal that went right afterwards. That was in the third period where Carolina tied it, where it was basically like Jacob Slavin scores from like a really odd spot.
I also felt like Sorokin wasn't great.
No, he wasn't. Even the goal he gave up on the shorthanded goal, Islander fans were kind of saying, "Oh, the power play," but that goal was kind of like he was like his legs were like in crotch position. But even like in overtime, that goal, and people were kind of, which I agree, the refs were kind of like they really jobbed the Islanders. But I mean, that goal he gave up, what Sorokin was like, come on, it's like it was a softie almost. The 3 goals he gave up, the Islanders played well enough in that second game to win. They really, I think Butchie said it best. They played a game. They won that game. They really played well in game 2. But listen, you had fluky situations, and you didn't have a power play, which is probably good for the Islanders up until they scored in the third period. So I mean, the Islanders they've actually played well in this series, and I think they have a good shot here. If they can win Sunday, it's best of 3. And the Islanders,
and you know what?
Joe
mentioned, he's rooting for.
All I got to do is win one game in Carolina.
He's rooting for the Islanders to win.
Sunday, I think it's just, listen, if you win Sunday, what do they always say? Best of 3.
Yeah.
You have Sorokin. You got to think Sorokin's going to play better than he played in game 2. And you're starting to see guys open up a little bit. And I think that's the key here with this offense. Don't forget, Barzal finally comes back to the lineup. Barzal and Horvat didn't really play with each other. You think about Brock Nelson and what he...
Horvat's he's got to get going. I mean...
I know, he's been...
Nothing.
He's been basically playing a D role.
I don't want to hear... Oh, he's done other things other than score. No. You came here to score goals. I want to see goals scored from this guy. He's done nothing.
Yeah, that's the best, and that's the big chip. That's just no. Yeah. Listen, it's I was hearing you and Randy talk about that, but yeah, no. Listen, I mean, he's just been a 0 for us, but hopefully he gets it going. But obviously, we'll see a 7-0 Mets here. 2 more runs batted in for Alonso. That's got to be 24 RBIs now or something like that. Some crazy stats. So we'll see. Islanders certainly. Let's see what they do Sunday. 1:00 game. So an interesting 1:00. Nets 1:00. Islanders 1:00. Rangers 8:00. Knicks I think are also 8:00 on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll obviously check all that out. But we certainly didn't save the best for last, but we saved the biggest for last here in the Brute Force Brad Weiss. And Brad, while I wasn't with you this week, I did actually see you a couple of different times. I know John Gonzalez would like to follow up and asking that he's got the Brute Force over you. And Israeli emerging basketball player Eric Katovsky. Eric, certainly an interesting story there, an interesting background. And of course, I guess you can't say quite friend, but sort of not quite a nemesis, but sort of acquaintance on the court. Divine Chisholm, obviously the York legend, 1,187 points. And a lot of people listen to that segment, especially the clip on Instagram. I think I have like 650 views off it. A lot of guys, actually a couple of guys messaged me that played against him. So that was kind of a small feat. But you played against him also, Brad. You also get some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to share? So level up for those that are listening and watching here with your final thoughts and fire away.
Yeah, certainly. That's a great lead-in, Tom. So good job there. But thank you, Tom, for another great week. Thank you, Rob, Chris, Justin, of course, Randy, who comes on, does a great job to start our show. So thank you guys for another great week. You can follow me on social media at BradWeiss20 on Twitter, at BWeiss20, and Coach Brad Weiss on Instagram, and Searching Bradley Weiss on Facebook. Now, shockingly, my closing thoughts will actually be very short today. And the reason, one of the reasons why is exactly what you said, Tom. Level up. So tomorrow I will be on the court for 6 games. And I also have 3 basketball training sessions. So I am coaching from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. tomorrow. So it's going to be a long day for the Brute Force, certainly. But my teams have gotten to an alarmingly great start. 2 of my teams are 2-0. And my other team is 1-0. So I am 5-0 to start this spring season. I am really excited to see what my kids could do this weekend. So my 3rd, 5th, and 6th grade teams will all be on the court this weekend in a tournament for Level Up and Lightning. All right.
And I also heard last week, by the way, you actually beat somebody. That's actually a multiple.
And I have some breaking news for you, Tom Bryce. So I did get a win against Jason Gaudiezo.
I heard that from a little birdie out there. I did hear that.
We had a nice, lead against their team, and Gaudiezo's team, as most of his teams do, fight back. They fought back, and we ended up winning by 2 But the breaking news is that in this tournament this weekend, there's a rematch. We're playing again. So Coach Gaudiezzo and I are facing off tomorrow at 12 o'clock. So certainly they're going to want revenge, and I'm going to want more wins. So we'll see what happens. One of my other coaches, who I'm going to allude to here in a second, will also be in attendance for this game. So I will talk about him in a second. But I first want to do what I always should do, because I mentioned earlier in the show, all right, that today I got a nice haircut. So I want to give a shout out always to our guy, Sal the Barber. All right, You should follow him on Instagram at Sal the Barber 91. He definitely supports our show, always talking to me about what we're doing on the show and then saying that he likes the clips and everything. So be sure to follow Sal the Barber 91 on Instagram. Now, that guy I was alluding to, I'm going to bring it in now, is my assistant coach, James DeSimone, who will be in attendance for our game against Gaudiezzo. Of course, James and Coach Gaudiezzo know each other because Coach Gaudiezzo was the guy who tore James of St. Joe's.
We heard that in the past. Yes, we did.
Obviously, James has chosen to go to Mr. Cordia and play there, and he's also chosen Tom Bryce to join us on the Sports Report.
Yes. So he's committed. Are we going to get a big post on Instagram that he's verbally committed to coming on to Sportswire?
He's verbally committed. I spoke to him today, and he said May 2nd, book it. All right. So I said, listen, I'm not even going to look at the comment. All right, listen. All right, May 2nd. All right, James DeSimone live with us. I believe it'll be about 9:30 p.m.
Yeah, 9:30.
With James. So I'm really excited for that. By the way, I beat James twice in Pig today, so I want to make sure I make notice of that he lost to me twice. But ultimately, I'm really excited to have him on. He has a great story. He's a fun kid. You guys will see he'll mess with me as much as John Gonzalez on the show. But
now, are we doing it where you and him are in the studio together, or is he going to be like?
No, I believe he's going to be in Florida. So he's going to be.
Okay, so we're getting him from separate studios. Okay, good.
Yeah, so he'll be separate. I mean, he would be the guy to come in, but certainly I think he's going to be in Florida. So I'm excited to have him on the show. I want to give a shout out to Chisholm of York. He did certainly did a great job, with his interview, as well as the guy Arik. Who, as much as John wants to say that I would beat him, and I really appreciate you, John. That's a compliment. All right. Arik's a very good player. He's definitely going to do some big things, and he's certainly a big man. So he would be a tough matchup for anybody, and I'm excited to see what he can do. And I'm really excited to see what Divine will do with his next step.
Divine was a great interview. Divine is somebody, a peer of you. That's why I really thought Divine was such a great conversation.
I really enjoyed listening to his story, him talk about, his days at York, and kind of similar to me, not in maybe exactly the same lights, but they had their struggles. They had some tough seasons. And they bounced back. They had some good moments.
Me of Matt Hurt in terms of Matt's career, like on a team level. The first 2 years didn't win much, but the last two had like a turnaround. I think that's kind of where I think Divine's career kind of reminds me a little bit on a team level, more or less.
Yeah. So, Divine, again, his interview was great. He had some funny things to say as well. I know he had a comment on myself, which was fun. So, listen, certainly, yes, John, he is a bowler. So you're right on that one. So certainly I enjoyed that. And I really enjoy some of the great interviews we're going to have coming up. We have some really great people with James. Coach Gaudiezzo, if he comes back on, he told me he's going to be back. So,
all right. Well, he wants to keeps reminding me he wants to be a 5-time participant. He's got that whole.
He's coming. And now we have a lot to talk about.
Yep, go ahead.
We got a lot to talk about now, Tom, because we got 2 matchups now we're going to have to talk about.
We're going to have to bring them. All right, you know what? We'll make a thread. I won't do it tonight, but we'll do it tomorrow. We'll have it. Tomorrow.
Jason, Coach Kelly Dempsey, Coach Brendan Fitzpatrick. I mean, we go down the list. We got a lot of people that want to come on, and I'm excited to have them all, but James seems to be next in line, and I think he's ready to come on. So,
well, James is a good one.
If you want to see somebody really pick on me and mess with me, you can't miss this. He's going to have a lot of fun, and he has a great story. So, thank you guys for the show tonight. I'm certainly going to need some sleep. It's going to be a long day tomorrow.
All right, so we'll keep it brief here. Yes, definitely. Thank you, James DeSimone. I look forward to speaking with you next Tuesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Obviously, James has been here before, but not in the capacity you're going to see him. And also, I want to thank again Eric Katofsky, also of the Anoka Ramsey Golden Rams men's basketball team. Also, Divine Chisholm. I want to thank Jamel Gist. Of course, you know Jamel very well. Jamel, I spoke with, and Coach Gist was very happy. And we're going to bring Coach Gist back one of these days. I think toward the end of the month, we have Coach Gist on the roster. But obviously, Gordieso is definitely coming back. I've actually gotten some messages from people that want us to have Gordieso back. But James is first, and Kelly's got like the weirdest schedule. It's like I'm trying him, but it's like it changes like by the day. I mean, so we'll definitely work that all in. But last comment of the night, great stuff again, and shout out to John Gonzalez. Yes, please follow the Sports Authorities group and on Facebook at Sports Authorities. I know John was kind of mixing it up today with a couple of wrestlers. I think he was on with at least one of my wrestlers today, and also Randy Dillon of the Hockey Fan Chat. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you're on sportnarium.com/play, you go to a Pinstripe Chronicles Marathon all evening because I got like 5 shows of theirs, and that'll kill me a long time to play. But if you're on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, I will be back Sunday night doubleheader. I'll have WCE 11 p.m. Eastern Time, James Marshall, a.k.a. Catalyst, Craven Rage. They'll be raving about their championship match for the Interstate, the All-Out titles next weekend, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Jinnah, to talk about his United States tour here back home in England. And thank everybody for tuning in on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, and good night, everyone.